so I never crash. Hey, way too fast. I gotta go, I'm in the zone, foot on the gas. Hey, GPS, I got goals, I know where to go, so I'll never crash. Yeah, I'm in the end zone. Where did he go? You way too slow, homie, I been gone. I know you see, I got the rings, homie, I been flown. Me and the team going for rings, that is the end goal. Hey, I go beast mode, all on the world like Eco. I go crazy like CeeLo, can't stop me like Chico's. I'm suave like Rico, can't be mine no repo. This my home like Depot, can't deny like Vito. Hey, way too fast. I gotta go, I'm in the zone, foot on the gas. Yeah. GPS, I got goals, I know where to go, so I never crash. Hey, way too fast. I gotta go, I'm in the zone, foot on the gas. Hey, GPS, I got goals, I know where to go, so I'll never crash.
Well, after a great trip to the Music City and Nashville Superspeedway one Wednesday ago, we're back. This time, though, in the Northeast. We're in Long Pond, Pennsylvania. Welcome to Pocono Raceway, and welcome to the Drop in the Hammer pre-race show in anticipation of the 17th race in Season 7 of the 4 Wide Racing TJ's Team Series. And thankful that you're with us here on the KBueno Racing Network. We're alongside Francisco Bacchiao and Keelan Belsha. I'm Kenneth Bueno. Guys, we've got another good one brewing for us. First trip and only trip to Pocono this season, and we have had plenty of different winners. I think after last week's race in Nashville Superspeedway, though, Francisco, I mean, you were out of a crazy race for you behind the wheel, but I think overall, in the haze of it all, we saw great racing in and out, and Steven Maggio getting the win. And as we push to Pocono, we're just getting that much closer to the playoffs. Things are going to get really, really dramatic.
Yeah, I mean, it was a crazy race from my perspective, up and down all night long, but the race itself, just from the overall perspective, was really entertaining, and I think everybody enjoyed watching. The Music City always puts on great racing, and that leads us here into Pocono, where we're now one race left away from the playoffs, and that just makes the battle at the cut line all the more of a focal point to focus on, and that also means that we're also now officially in the first round of our bracket challenge.
Yeah, we are going to get into the details of that as we move forward. A possible playoff spot on the line, Keelan, but like Francisco said, we're getting down to the wire in this regular season. We just crossed over Nashville, and I think with every single passing race, the desperation, the intensity is going to creep up with the track levels that we have. Pocono tonight, Coda in 2 weeks' time on March 12th, and Dover, Texas, before we reach the regular season finale at Daytona. So what's going to be so important for the drivers as they get down to these final 5-ish races to make a push for that postseason?
Yeah, Kenneth, well, I certainly think today is probably going to be the calmest race we have left before we get to the push for the playoffs. All these tracks are so vastly different. I think this is going to be the last one until we get to maybe Auto Club to start the playoffs that we're really going to have a chance for some long green flag racing, and opportunity to maximize points to the best of your ability. I think this race is going to be one of the last handful of ones that we have where you can really control yourself and control your destiny by the time the checkered flag waves. And I think guys are going to be trying to take advantage of that today at a track known for long green flag racing. You're really putting it all in your own hands.
You know, plenty of more regular tracks in that first half of the regular season that drivers maybe took for granted. Now you get into this later half of it all, and it just becomes so difficult to master a singular track because there isn't a proper pattern from here until the end of the regular season at Daytona. And even then, through the playoffs, you still have tons of tracks that, you know, we have seen before, but second trip around is always very different until that Homestead of Miami race that will decide our champion for 2025. Let's get into, though, what happened last week at the virtual Nashville Superspeedway. And boy, it was a really fun one at the concrete track in Lebanon, Tennessee. Steven Maggio So Scott Healy, the rookie and the veteran, leading us to the green flag for the first time. And Francisco, you were in this race. You went through some troubles, and I think that had described and categorized the first half of the race. Lots of yellows, drivers getting antsy to make track position gains, and although we did see some great racing, lots of chaos that went along with it too.
Yeah, early on, I was able to tell that everybody was fighting for the track position. It just valued so much to have the clean air, and here's an example of just that. Maggio fighting Healy very aggressively with his teammate behind him, trying to get that clean air.
And there's one of the restarts, Scott Healy and Steven Maggio. Then a big crash here between the pair of KBueno Racing teammates. Steven Stempian gets off the door from Kyle Benson, then tags KBueno late into the outside wall. One of several crashes we've seen over the course of the race. But we saw a bit of alternative strategy, Keelan Belsha. Eric Schaefer, Scott Healy among those that elected on some stops to stay out on the racetrack on old tires. But again, the cautions would dictate the pace of this race. Tyler Murray, fresh off the commercial break. Duncan Fall, Eric Schaefer, AJ Green getting involved in our biggest accident of the night. And then came the final stint. Jaden Porter, Brandon Hawken, and Steven Maggio, the all-out war that happened in those final 30-ish laps.
And you see them 3 wide right there. They were racing really hard, but the BBR teammates eventually got the better of Brandon Hawken, who fell off as the long run developed, and that led to Steven Maggio getting his 4th win of the season, the most of anybody else in the field. His first in Charlotte, it was a big one for Steven Maggio in that 51 that really cemented himself as one of the championship favorites.
And now he has the most wins of any driver so far this season, his first since that Charlotte win several weeks ago. It's been a little while, and after the several weeks, including that All-Star break, Francisco, where we had a plethora of new winners take center stage, it was a huge statement win for Steven Maggio in the sense that it took him a little while to get himself back into rhythm and back into race-winning pace, but as soon as he did during that final stint, he almost looked impossible to catch up to and make a pass on. So Maggio, very dangerous here at the late end of this regular season, and the momentum with that win just adds on to the threat.
Absolutely right, and I was talking to you about this just before we went live, that he has definitely looked like the best driver on the intermediate racetracks this season, because that's where a large portion of his race wins have come so far this season, and that's very crucial as we move into the playoffs, which is mostly intermediate-style racetracks, especially that finale at the Homestead Miami Speedway.
And also, Maggio is trying to make history of his own. If he wins one more this season, he will tie the single-season record for rookie wins. And Brandon Hawken held that record last season with 5. Maggio has 4, so he's flirting a little close to making that history and tying Brandon or beating him by the time we get to the end of this season. And Ethan as well. So 5 of those wins by rookie drivers. It's a big, big time statement. And so Maggio is already paving the way to add his name into the 4-wide racing history books. And for Pocono's sake, it is one of the OGs in 4-wide racing scheduling. This track has held the race for every single season, every single edition of the premier 4-wide racing series. But in its secondary season, back on Tuesday nights, back in 2021, we had a race of our very own here at this virtual Pocono Raceway with the ARCA series there. And that takes us through today's KBRN Moment in Time. Welcome to today's KBRN Moment in Time. This moment comes from a tricky triangle visit in 2021 with the 4-wide racing ARCA series. It'll be the 48 of AJ Green, the 34 of Lance Hill to lead us to the green flag from row number 1. Pace car is down, and we are ARCA Racing from Pocono. Series veterans AJ Green and Lance Hill brought the field to the green in race 6 of this inaugural season, and the race was plagued by several yellows early. Pocono tested championship contender Craig Lautenslager, who would be among those involved in heavy incidents throughout the event. This race showcased a mix of drivers still running in the series today, and some that were around less commonly, like Charlie Harcum, who took control of the lead midway. As the race entered a restart inside 3 laps to go, Hill launched out in front and crossed the line first, taking his first win of the season.
It's not gonna be enough. Lance Hill oozed off the corner. It's gonna invite the 88 to the outside. They're gonna be side by side, but give it to Lance Hill.
And that's today's KBRN Moment in Time. That moment in time from Pocono, so much fun, Francisco, and looking back at the ARCA series, I think that is one of the key moments of this KBueno Racing Network because we had covered so many seasons of 4-wide action on Max Speed TV. That's the deal that I initially signed with 4-wide. That's what introduced me to this series that we continue covering today. But then when the 4-wide ARCA series came around, they reached out to me and said, hey, we want to broadcast on your channel. First bit of action on KBRN for 4-wide that the viewers got to see. And I think it's so cool that you've got a bunch of drivers that obviously are still in that 4-wide path that are not currently racing, but Lance Hill won that race. He won a race this season in Talladega. He's still one of the OGs of Fox Motorsports and still racing actively. So it's so cool to see the path build into the present and the name, for the most part, not changing. A lot of these guys still racing.
Yeah, there's that saying that says, the more things change, the more things stay the same, right? A fair bit of change, and a lot of the things that have stayed the same throughout these years. And Pocono, for me at least, holds a special place because that was where I participated in my first broadcast of this series with you back in Season 2. Hard to think of it. And here now in Season 7, 4 years later, really, since when that day that we did the broadcast here at the Pocono Raceway. So a lot of things have really changed in 4-wide in all that time, but really the same kind of excitement every single week when it comes to this league, and I'm happy to see where we are here in a couple years' time, hopefully.
It'll be fun to see where 4-wide takes us over the next several years, but our storyline from that ARCA race was how the championship was developing late in that season. That was race number 6 of the campaign, so while all of it was going down with playoffs and points, we were dealing with those storylines. Keelan Belcher, we are in the exact same place this time around. We're late in this regular season. Things are coming down to the wire, which means our playoff picture is only going to get wilder and wilder. We saw 2 points between the 15th and 16th place cars in the standings. Now it's only just 1 point separating Brandon Banks for Drinkin' Bros Racing and Austin Reedy for Murray Reedy Motorsports. It's a big dive for Austin, who was not in contention last week in Nashville Superspeedway. He is here tonight to fight for some viable points, but a lot of guys, a lot of big names that are out of the bubble as we see it.
Yeah, like Austin Reedy just outside of there, he's kind of skidded down. Brandon Banks, he's climbed his way up over the recent week, finding strength in these last few races, get himself right above that cut line, and continue to try to chop away at that, as that 1 point is all that separates them. Guy who has been skidding down as of late, though, AJ Green in that 48, he has not seemed to find any luck here as of late. Now he sits only 20 to the good, so he's going to need a good race today at Pocono to kind of get some momentum in his favor, because he's a guy, a big name, a former champion of the series, who we could see out of the playoffs if he can't find something in these next 7 weeks.
A lot of these guys demanding that safety net at the end of this regular season, but Daytona really isn't a safety net. It's more of a crucial decider. It can kill your dreams or can push them forward, just depending on how it wants to treat you any given night. So I'm sure any of these guys either want to grab a win before Daytona's here, or if it comes down to Daytona, they will just have to press it up to Lady Luck and see what she decides in their run to the playoffs. But we'll keep an eye on this playoff picture, that red line, cut line for 15th, something we'll watch over the course of tonight and the rest of this 4-wide regular season. Well, the last time we were here at the virtual Pocono Raceway, it was during the playoffs. It was late in the entire season, and we were talking about a points fight in its own right. Lawson Peele and Ethan Fonseca Moreno had been toe-to-toe for the series championship lead, and it all came down to one single race in that Pocono event that changed the tide of a championship fight. To row number 4, that's where you find Lawson Peele. He's won the last 2 races here from the Tricky Triangle. Here's a look from Peele. He watches on as Moreno holds the position in front. The main goal for the 21, do not let this 12 car by.
Look at the difference there. The 98 is going to get that run off the corner. They'll be side by side going into the tunnel turn.
Now the question is, if you're Lawson Peele, do you even bother fighting Brandon Hawken? The answer probably is going to be no.
Really going to help out Ethan Fonseca, who closes up to the back. Will he try to go 3 wide? He's looking, he's thinking about going to the inside. He's going to switch to the outside. The 12 car's trying to block. Ethan gets to the inside, some more blocking. Lawson Peele trying to his best, and he's going to dial it up to the inside.
It's about the battle for this spot right here between 2 of the top drivers in the standings. It will be Brandon Hawken capturing his 5th career 4-wide Racing TJ's Team Series win, this time from the Tricky Triangle. Checkered flag for Brandon Hawken.
And Ethan Fonseca walks away with the 4th place finish, and Lawson Peele hangs on just barely to 5th place.
A deciding race there for Lawson Peele, who did come up short in that 4-wide championship last season. But Francisco, the stats here at Pocono favor the Columbus, Mississippi native. In 4 starts, he's got 2 wins and has the best average finish over 3 or more starts by any active driver in 4-wide history. So Pocono has treated him quite well. That time around, it was a top 5 finish that ultimately swung him in the other direction for the entire title back in season 6. But if there is any driver to particularly watch for, it's going to be Lawson Peele.
Absolutely, he's one to watch everywhere we go to, but also last season we had 2 Pocono races, and the first time we went to Pocono in the regular season, he won in a flag-to-flag affair, so Lawson Peele, a big name to watch here this evening.
He also has a next-gen car win here at Pocono. That was in Season 5, which was his first career win here at this 2.5-mile tricky triangle. We join the Season 4 champion of the series now. Lawson, first of all, welcome. Thank you for joining us on this Drop in the Hammer pre-race show. What are the overall emotions as you head back to Pocono, given the fact that you've had a ton of success here already in your career?
Yeah, good vibes. The last 2 tracks, Iowa and Nashville, obviously not my best tracks, so getting back to a good track for me. And Hawken and Maggio don't appear to be in the session right now, so that's interesting. Track's a little loose and slidey over there off of 3 right now, but it should cool down as we go here. So be looking forward to that, and we always seem to have good green flag racing here, so hopefully that pattern continues, and really looking forward to it.
And as you come into this track, you have 1 next-gen win here via Season 5. Last season was a bit different because you were driving the Xfinity Series cars, but is there anything that you can take away from the Season 5 win to bring into this race and parlay that momentum?
Yeah, I mean, it's it's just one of these tracks that suits me well, and I remember that Season 5 victory here very well. It went green at the end, took 2 tires on a green flag stop. Kevin DeLeo was really fast, and we'll see if we get another kind of long green run at the end like that one, or we have some chaos and some restarts. But I think the track drives relatively the same. So turn 3 is kind of the trouble corner over there, especially on the exits. So we'll just be watching for that, and I think the track will kind of come to us as we go here, though, as it goes down.
Well, it'll be a fun one regardless. Lawson, best of luck here at Pocono Raceway. Hopefully we'll be talking to you at the end of tonight.
Hopefully so. See you guys. Good luck.
That's Lawson Peele, driver of the number 12. We'll be keeping an eye on him over the course of this race, but he mentioned a very big point, guys. Brandon Hawken and Steven Maggio, as we see it, are not in the session. Ethan Fonseca Moreno, who finished a spot ahead of him in last season's Season 6 race, is here, but a ton of big hitters that are in the race last week are not in this one tonight. So we'll keep an eye on that as we move forward. Another thing we'll also keep in mind is the Big Bracket Challenge. This is how it all goes. It's sort of March Madness style here in early March, what it will be early March in a couple of weeks' time. So the drivers will go over all these rounds. Round 1 is tonight from Pocono. So as we see it, we'll officially kick off our first proper round of action after the wild card took place in the Music City last Wednesday. Here is the official list of all of those drivers that are pushing for a playoff spot. So whichever your favorite driver is, hopefully they end up finishing better than the driver they are facing head-to-head in tonight, and that goes all the way to the regular season finale at Daytona with a playoff spot on the line. So we talk about the standings, just how close things are in points, but the Bracket Challenge winner will play a big effect into how things will go moving forward. Well, that would do it for our coverage of the Drop in the Hammer pre-race show. We've got a lot of stuff to bring you still in anticipation of our 17th race in this Season 7 campaign. Don't go anywhere, because on the other side, Francisco, Keelan, and I will try to bring you the coverage on and off the track and in the booth from Pocono Raceway.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
That's my bonus for my quota. Boy, don't nobody. I just get a check in the jail with the set. All we do is rap. Ain't worried about next. Yeah. I'm just making plays, Broadway in the flesh. On us. This right here in the corner.
Five races remain in the journey to the postseason, and the next step to that territory involves a tough visit to the tricky triangle in the Northeast. The KBueno Racing Network welcomes you to coverage of race number 17 in the Season 7 4-Wide Racing TJ's Team Series, live from the virtual Pocono Raceway in Long Pond, Pennsylvania. Out in the Northeast for this brawl to the regular season finale, and we welcome you to the action where, alongside Keelan Belsha in the broadcast booth, I'm Kenneth Bueno. We'll have Francisco Bacchiao on the racetrack, hopefully giving us info all race long. Well, Keelan, as we mentioned it during the Drop in the Hammer pre-race show, the storyline is who will get into the playoffs, who will get out over this 5-race stint that starts tonight at the Tricky Triangle at Pocono. Steven Maggio proved to everyone that he is still a force to be reckoned with last week after winning, and now it's up to all of the other drivers at the back end of the standings to make an imprint tonight. We could find ourselves with another new winner or another driver like Maggio did last week, taking center stage once again.
It's going to be a big week for these guys right at that cut line. This is a big, decisive race. It's going to be one of those few that may not be completely filled with chaos, so it is going to be an opportunity to make up as many points as you can. And if you're down and out of the cut line, this is another opportunity to get a win and try to put yourself in. Pocono lends itself to crazy opportunities with only 3 corners here, long straightaways. Anything can happen as we come down to the Long Pond, Pennsylvania area. This 2.5-mile track opened up in 1971, and all 3 turns are completely different. 14 degrees of banking in turn 1, 8 degrees of banking in turn 2, modeled after the Indianapolis Motor Speedway on that corner in the tunnel turn, and in turn 3, modeled after the Milwaukee Mile, only 6 degrees of banking. It is a track that is very different on every end of the racetrack.
And this was our onboard lap via Francisco Bacalhau, who gave us a first-person look at what we should expect to see. So fast, you go into turn 1, a very long front straightaway, and very outstretched as well, so we may see 3, 4, maybe 5 wide down that main straightaway entering turn 1. You got to go up the gears, then you may go down a gear to 4th into turn 1. You go up the gear again down this back straightaway, and then comes turn 2, also called the tunnel turn. Very quick left snap hook that gets you down to the inside of the yellow line. We've seen many drivers get in trouble specifically at that part of the racetrack. And then it's a long run down to the sweeping turn 3, the lowest bank corner of this entire Pocono Raceway. You stick your left sides to the inside, down to the yellow line, and you try to get as best of an exit as possible on the throttle. We've seen many drivers hit that outside wall, particularly just a bit of that understeer that goes into it. Francisco's onboard lap gets us a good perspective, and as we see it right now, Bacalhau is set for his second pole of Season 7 after getting Indianapolis's pole several weeks ago. So a good look at our onboard lap from the KBueno Racing Network. Just another reminder that we got that big bracket challenge going on as we speak. So round 1 starts tonight. If you see your favorite driver in there, make sure that you root for them if they're going to go head-to-head on this series and see what they can exactly do to get themselves a possible playoff spot. Let's dive into our 4-wide race trends before we get started tonight. There are only 2 drivers that have won at Pocono from the pole. So Francisco is on the merge of history if he can win this race tonight. Brandon Hawken and Lawson Peele, both of them did it. The only 2 drivers to ever do it, and that was in a single season last year in season number 6. And for Lawson Peele that we talked to in our Dropping the Hammer pre-race show, he is the only driver with more than 1 win here. First one came in season 5. There he is with Jaden Porter giving him congratulations. And then last season, the first time we were here at Pocono with the Xfinity Series cars, Lawson Peele brought his Chevrolet to victory lane and did it with a possible chance to do it for a 3rd time and get his 3rd career W here in Long Pond, Pennsylvania. Well, the drivers are on the racetrack, and we are now getting you to the starting grid for tonight's 90-lapper from the virtual Pocono Raceway. We're on the pole. It is Hialeah's Francisco Bacalhau, who leads this race with a 54.013 second pole of the season, with Jaden Porter, his KBueno Racing teammate, on the outside in row number 1. Back in row 2 is where you'll find the 2-time winner here at Pocono, Lawson Peele, who rolls off from 3rd. Mikey Neal has had several opportunities at his first career 4-wide win. Does it change as he starts his Chevrolet in position 4? Kyle Benson, driver of the number 38 Ford Mustang for Murray Reedy Motorsports, is inside the top 5. Canadian Curtis Kelly, strong all season in points, still without a race victory this season. Could possibly change after this race is all said and done. Austin Reedy, 1 point back of the playoff picture cut line as we go into tonight's race. He will meet the threshold of starts needed to have a playoff berth. He is 7th. Ethan Fonseca Moreno returns after a little absence. He rolls off from 8th. Back in row number 5, you'll find Nicholas Baumann for Dark Horse Motorsports in the 14 car, and Jesse Prees rounds out the top 10.
Back in the 6th row, you have Eric Schaefer in the 3 car trying to rebound after going off sequence last week and getting involved in an incident with Dark Horse Racing's Trevor Haley to his outside. Back in the 7th row, we have last week's winner and 4-time winner this season, Stephen Maggio, looking to get every finger on the hand accounted for with a 5th win today. And AJ Green is looking to turn around some bad luck that has plagued him in the last few weeks. Back in row number 8, we find the rookie for Dark Horse Racing, that is Juan Escamilla, and Gabriel Dahari, winner at Iowa, to his outside. And 16th, back in row number 9, we have Craig Lautenslager in the 13, who is just below that cut line, trying to make up some points, and Ryan Pandicio trying to turn it around after a very early exit last week. Back in row 10, rounding out the top 20, you have BBR's Rodney Roberts, and rookie making his first start, Justin Rout.
Back in row number 11 is where you'll find Talladega winner Lance Hill and 4-wide ARCA Series winner here, Lance Hill in 21st. Kevin D'Elia back in 22nd place. Back in row 12, you'll find BBR's Jonathan Juergensmeyer in 23rd. 24th to the league owner for Murray Reedy Motorsports in Tyler Murray, who crashed out last week in Nashville Superspeedway. Daniel Moore in the 77 kicks it off from 25th, and the Murray Reedy Motorsports number 42 of Christopher Bishop outside in row 13. That's P26. First set of drivers to not take qualifying, Brandon Banks, Cody Kinsey back in row 14. Michael Newbraw wraps up the top 30 with Dusty Applin, the rookie, in 31st. Back in 32nd, you'll find Craig Parks, Timothy Cook on the outside, and the number 9, the independent driver of Brandon Gillis, brings us the end of our 34-car field. Well, Keelan, as we get to the green flag here from Pocono Raceway, what are your Keelan's keys to the victory from Long Pond?
There's going to be keys to the victory, and I hope the drivers are listening this time around. You got to maximize the corner exits. These straightaways are so long. We saw it with Francisco's onboard lap earlier. Getting speed off the corner is going to help you a lot more on lap time than going into it really hard will be. Go easy on that tunnel turn. It's a scary corner to drive from experience here on the iRacing Sim. It is one of those that you don't really know how to expect, and that wall, it catches up to you quick. You want to stay off that wall, and you want to stay off the curb too, because it'll shoot your car around. Be consistent each lap. You want to find that line. You want to be consistent. The race winner today will do it by staying consistent on all three corners of the racetrack, and expect long green flag runs and strategy to play a factor, because Pocono led itself to a green checkered race last year, about 29 to 31 laps on the fuel run tonight. That would be 2 stops if this thing goes green, and that is something that is a possibility tonight, Kenneth.
We'll see if those Keelan's keys matter at the end of this one. Let's touch in with our pole sitter, Francisco Bacchial. Francisco, well, it didn't take you that long. You were in the booth for our pre-race show. You're here on the pole to start. What did it feel like in qualifying? What do we expect to do here tonight?
Honestly, I thought I messed it up off of turn 3, but it held on just enough to the start-finish line to beat Jaden, just by nothing, really. So glad we were able to secure the BBR front row, and hopefully I can listen to Keelan's keys and try to take a victory here tonight.
Well, you've got that upper edge. You see the Keelan's keys before literally anyone else does, hours before the race starts. So hopefully you use it to good effect. Hopefully this race goes much better than it did last week. Francisco, congrats on the pole. Best of luck in tonight's race.
Appreciate it. We'll try to make the most of it.
That's Francisco Bacchial, his 3rd career 4-wide racing pole, 2nd of the season. We mentioned how he started from the front row in Indianapolis, a race we did not cover on the broadcast side of things, but it's an all BBR front row. Bacchial and Porter will lead us out of turn 3 to the green flag for the first time tonight. It's a rather cloudy day in Long Pond, Pennsylvania. The track temps are not as hot as we'd expect them to be, but nonetheless, it is still a good day to go racing in the sim. Bacchial and Porter on the front row will take the field off the final corner, and for the first time in 2025, we're racing from Pocono. And Bacchial up high in turn number 1, washed up the racetrack, and here comes Porter. Now Peele to the inside for first and second. First trip through the tunnel turn.
That may have been the advantage for Jaden Porter. He wasn't up here doing the pre-race show. He was practicing. He knew what to expect going into turn number 1. Francisco just a little too hard there, opened up the door for his teammate. And now he's opening up the door for Lawson Peele. And you saw in that initial start of the race how fanned out the field got going into 1. There's a lot of room to make moves on this racetrack as the 30 car is going to stay in front of Lawson Peele, as those 3 cars nose to tail Kyle Benson in the pickle car back there.
After the first 2.5 miles of 225 that we'll expect to see tonight, Jaden Porter will take the lap led, as here is the entire field building up around this latter half of this top 10. Maggio, who you mentioned maybe could have not made this race tonight, was nearly away from getting out of this session and not being able to race. He is in, though. He's got Ethan Fonseca Moreno, his Toyota teammate, right behind. Austin Reedy, who had a moment of silver lining at the pole during qualifying, but then backed out as soon as things got to the end of that qualifying session, and everyone shuffling up off of these first several corners. And with the draft, with these next-gen cars, Keelan, you find yourself in a position where you make one mistake in the middle of a corner, and you can find yourself getting hounded by 2, 3, maybe even 4 or more race cars as drivers smack the outside wall off turn 3. Porter's still clearing ahead for the race lead, though, as of lap number 3.
That's going to be something that's going to be a common theme, is kind of tank slapping the outside wall coming off these corners, trying to maximize your speed on corner or exit. That was a Keelan key, by the way. These guys trying to take advantage of that. But that wall, it creeps up on you fast off these corners, and Like these next gens, like you said, they were so draft reliant. That's how you're gonna stay close with everybody, by drafting up there with them. As we see Francisco Bacallao take the lead away down the straightaway right there in between the tunnel turn and turn 1. I try to gap him a little bit down the short chute here. Francisco Bacallao back to the race lead after losing it on the initial corner.
And you notice there, as soon as Bacallao made the move to the inside on Porter entering turn 2, Porter decided to back out, let him have the position. One thing you don't want to do here at Pocono is go side by side in that tunnel turn. It's a very narrow corner, and unlike turns 1 and 3 where you have a little more space to operate, turn 2 is so momentum driven that if you back out of line by even the slightest of margins, you're maybe half a car length up, you're probably near the outside wall or in it. And so we've seen plenty of drivers get into that exact situation where they put a little bit too much gas, the car doesn't steer through the apex of the corner, and if you're on that secondary lane, you're going to be an easier journey to the outside wall. And so Porter let his teammate by to get some of that clean air up front. Porter lagging back by at least 3 or so car lengths, but the teammates now working in tandem. It's an overall effort for KBueno Racing in search of their 3rd straight 4-wide racing TJ's Team Series championship after Moreno did it last season and Jaden Porter did it back in season 5. Boy, plenty of drivers, Keelan, already wearing down that right front, taking huge hits to the outside wall, and Steven Maggio, one of them in line.
Make a move on that 71 at Kelly there, but yeah, you said it's going to be the thing that's going to happen, especially as these tires continue to wear as we go through this run. It's going to get tighter and tighter because that right front is going to be something that these guys are aggressive on going into these corners all race long, because all the speed that you really push in your car into these corners is going to be stressful on that right front, especially in turn 1 where we talked about it on the onboard lap. You're going into turn 1 so fast compared to those tracks that we race at, because it's the longest straightaway that we're going to have all season long. So that right front is going to get abused, and this car is going to feel tighter and tighter as the run progresses. We see our first side-by-side battle back in the pack, the 48 of AJ Green against the 72, our Iowa winner of Gabriel Dahari.
And we were talking about AJ Green and a bit of Craig Lownslager and a bit of Eric Schaefer, them running 14th, 15th, and 16th on the track. Those 3 that are in very different spots for the playoff standings. AJ Green on a bit of a downfall recently through the points. We mentioned Craig Lownslager and Schaefer, a lot of them near that back end of the top 10 or just outside of the top 10 in the playoff standings. None of them have been able to find a win here in this 2025 season, and AJ Green looking back underneath Dahari. This look for 13th on the racetrack off the tunnel turn entering turn 3. They're following behind the rookie Nicholas Baumann, who took his first unofficial win of the season at Las Vegas. That was during our All-Star race. And so Baumann still looking for career win number 1. He'll get the big push from Dahari off of turn 3. Come down to this front straightaway. Will cross the line for lap number 7 of 90 tonight. And for Bacallao, continues to lead. He has extended his gap, by the way, over half a second, 7/10 back to his teammate Jaden Porter. And the only real change, Keelan Belsha, throughout this top 5 is Kyle Benson making the move around Season 4 champ Lawson Peele. Benson slides up into 3rd after finishing in 2nd place. The last time we were here, there's a spinner. It's Justin Rout, the rookie, around off of turn number 1. And down the first short chute, Justin Rout, perpendicular to the racing line, first yellow flag thrown at lap 7.
07 was making his first start of the season, tried to make it in last week and couldn't get registered in time for the race. This is his first start side by side with Eric Schaefer in the 3-car right there. Ooh, I think Schaefer tried to plug the hole right there and maybe misjudged it a little bit and got into the quarter panel of the 07. Try to get a look maybe from Schaefer's onboard, get a better look at what happened. There is the 3. It's going to look like he's going to try to plug that hole right there, Kenneth, in front of Juan Escamilla, because he doesn't want to lose that spot to Escamilla as well. I don't know if he would have made it in front of Escamilla either, though. Just gap a little bit too small.
We got a look from Tyler Murray, who was in a similar situation, didn't go his way at Nashville, saw some cars crash in front of him, and he hit the rear end of Jesse Pree's machine this time around. Just barely squeaks by. And they continued crashing behind. That was Kevin D'Elia who was involved in that. And I'm trying to figure out the other car in lane. It was Lance Hill. So both of them end up with big damage there off of turn number 1.
And it looks like Schaefer had to go his car to the pits there. D'Elia got a good shot to the outside wall, too. Bring out our first caution flag of the day. Francisco took the lead. I'll be interested to see if we see some pit stops here. About a third of the way through the fuel run. Maybe not quite a third, but it is getting there on this fuel run, this tire run. Bacalhau, we saw him kind of build that 0.6 of a second lead there. Curious to know how his tires were doing. If we got that run to develop, I don't know if Porter would have reeled him in or not. As it appears the front two are staying out. Kyle Benson maybe the first taker. Just faking us out. Jesse Priest. looks like everybody's faking us out, Kenneth. No takers this time.
Yeah, that's the racing's version of a pump fake on the basketball court. Kyle Benson trying to get some others in. There are drivers that are going to come down pit road. Plenty of them, though, at the back. Remember the incident that we just had. Everyone basically there to get some damage repair. Kevin D'Elia with a torn up right front on his Camaro. And for the same, Lance Hill is in there. Rodney Roberts picked up some damage. Brandon Gillis, Timothy Cook, Eric Schaefer among those that have hit pit road this time. A lot of that just for some extra reassurance. And I think more drivers than we expected, even those without damage on their cars. A lot of them just making sure they can top off on fuel, maybe get themselves on a bit of an alternative strategy than those who are commanding the charge at the front of this field. And Bacalhau so far controlling the pace of this race after stealing the lead back from his teammate Jaden Porter over those first laps. And the story for Francisco last week was one of pure frustration, Keelan. He could not catch a break. There were many moments in that race where Bacalhau had carved through the field, entered the top 10. It looked like things were on the up and up for him, but then either bad luck or a mistake would cost him so much track position. He crashed probably 3 or 4 times in that race, and it was just a situation of many instances of bad luck across the race. And after it was tough to drive for everybody in the way to get track position, Bacalhau was a victim of the circumstance. This time around, a much cleaner start and already feeling good about his race car 9 laps in.
It really does feel like that's been the story of his whole season, Kenneth, when he's come out to race here. Watkins Glen had a good podium run going before he made contact with Kyle Benson, and that really ended his race right there. I think he still salvaged a top 10 out of that, I think, but he had pace to maybe finish on the podium, and then came out for the All-Star race because he got the pole there. Indianapolis, he had a good run, but the All-Star race wrecked pretty early, and then last week just not too much going on. So he's looking for a good race in that 30 car. He's been wanting to get a good run in 4 wide and to put it on pole and lead these opening laps. He's on pace to do that, but there is still a lot of racing to go.
Yeah, there's so much left. Telemetry tells us at least an hour and 12 minutes should we stay the rest of the way green. And like you mentioned, we went that first Season 6 Pocono race flag to flag. We didn't have a single yellow thrown. Tonight has already broken the rhythm. We are not going to go flag to flag tonight. It's going to be just a top 10 as we run through the first several laps of this race. Bacalhau and Porter will occupy the front row. Kyle Benson and Lawson Peele will stay put in the second row. Virtually no changes throughout this top 5, at least as we see it. A lot of those guys in the top 15 on behind. That's where you see a bulk of the change. And for everyone 20th on back, that starts with the rookie Gabriel Dahari and Juan Escamilla, they have all come down pit road. So keep an eye on where they are, whether they have come down for some tires. Many of them are in for a splash of fuel. So as we get into the long green flag run, if we do here at Pocono Keelan, we may find ourselves with those guys staying out a little longer than usual. And if they get a yellow flag thrown their way, it'll be a prayer answered. But storylines that still haven't developed yet. Right now, the answer is Bacalhau, who leads the first 10 laps or so of this race and will bring us back under action from Pocono with about 80 laps remaining. Still a very long way to traverse through Long Pond in this 2.5 mile tricky triangle. So the field will come out of the long sweeping turn number 3, modeled after the Milwaukee Mile, which is one of the unique features about Pocono. All 3 of these corners modeled after different speedways across the United States. Turn 1 modeled after Trenton, turn 2 modeled after the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and then final corner modeled after the Milwaukee Mile. Bacalhau will take them to the start-finish line. Green flag back in the air. First restart of the night. Lap number 11.
Maybe a little teammate games right there. Jaden Porter got a good jump, slotted him right behind the 30 car, and they're going to kind of draft their way into turn number 1 as Benson and Peele will be the first side-by-side battle for the 3rd position back there. KBR gets single filed out there, but the race is on for 3rd, 5th, 2x2 back that away. Benson on the bottom, Peele up top.
That's a great look through turn number 1 where everyone gets near that outside wall. Then the tough tunnel turn. Benson gets right to the inside of Lawson Peele, vectors his way back to 3rd. And then the battle between the two Camrys sitting back in 5th and 6th. Curtis Kelly, the Canadian, under fire from the 4-time winner this season in Steven Maggio, already making some solid progress. At the beginning of this race, had jumped right in front of his teammate, Ethan Fonseca Moreno, over the first several laps, but Maggio has since picked up a couple, and even then some, so he's pushing through the field. Keep an eye on that Interstate Batteries. Number 51 has yet to properly pick up a win with that set of colors based off of Joe Gibbs Racing, as everyone single file through this top 5. And a look from Lawson Peele and Kyle Benson, boy, they have been at it over these first several laps. An onboard look from Peele off of turn 1.
Guys kind of close in that points battle. In overall points, they are 2nd and 3rd. They just traded that position, I believe, last week after Nashville, so they've kind of been all over each other, having similar seasons, but the one difference between them is definitely the win total. I mean, Peele, he has 3 of them. Kyle Benson has yet to get that win for himself. On average finish, he's having a pretty good year, but Benson just hasn't quite been able to break that mold and get into victory lane yet this season. Trying to do that for the first time tonight and officially lock himself into the playoff. Probably in a pretty good situation on points. Don't think he has too much to worry about, but it always feels good to get a win, and I know that's kind of been nagging at that 38, trying to get that first win of the season to really... It's really going to be hard, Kenneth, to make a championship run without any wins. I mean, because usually the winner of the last race of the season, that's going to be your champion, so you don't want to wait all the way to Homestead to finally pull it to victory lane.
Well, but remember, Kyle had made the championship finale with a mathematical shot at winning the championship by only winning 1 race. And obviously, it was a much different playoff system. It was not a win and you're in. It was more so a situation of build the most points throughout the campaign, be the most consistent driver. And we will add a bit of that playoff madness into it, but for the most part, it came down to how skilled you were over the course of the long tenured season. And Kyle only had 1 win. That was in the middle of the playoffs at Daytona, and he was 13 points back of the top spot in the standings when we visited Pocono for the 2nd time last season, where he finished inside the top 3. So Benson, who hasn't had a finish worse than 20th since the Charlotte Motor Speedway race, he has been one of the best drivers without a race win so far in 2025. And then the next best man behind him is that 5th place car in Curtis Kelly. Him, Kelly, and Porter have shared the top 3 of the standings for a bulk of this season. And although Porter has already ticked off win number 1, that came the way at the virtual Darlington Raceway, Benson and Kelly still rather unsuccessful in their attempts to get their first proper race win of the season, although they have been very, very good. Everyone single file through a bulk of this top 20. The better part of the field are just hanging where they are. There's a look at the rookie Juan Escamilla, who has faced so much bad luck in this 2025 season. And, you know, Keelan, you and I have had the opportunity of talking to Juan in those late night hours after these races on Wednesday nights. He joins us in the voice chat, and sometimes we get his thoughts overall on the season or just about anything in general. And Escamilla, like his Dark Horse Motorsports teammates, I mean, he wants to be at the top step. He wants to be having a really good season, but every race it always feels like he's like, I got to get back on track. I got to get myself back into rhythm, and he's running top 15 right now. Very clean Ford Mustang Dark Horse. Hopefully it stays this way as he tries to hang on and get Craig Launslager for the position up ahead.
Yeah, his season started out on his lid at Daytona, and he had a couple of top 10s after that at Auto Club in Bristol. Best finish of the season was back in 3rd at Watkins Glen, and we really thought that would be his opportunity to kind of break through and build some momentum. But ever since that race, it has just been downhill sledding, several DNFs. The best finish since then of 11th at Darlington. One of the few races that he got an opportunity to finish without any damage or anything really happening. So it's been a sluggish season ever since he got that good finish at Watkins Glen, but trying to turn it around, like you said, had the opportunity to talk to him a lot. And those Dark Horse Racing guys are kind of finding their legs. There's a little bit of a door bang there from Ethan Fonseca Moreno to AJ Green in the 48. Side by side with tunnel turn, it's risky business right there.
And to stay on point with Dark Horse Motorsports, two of those drivers, Bauman and Trevor Haley, are the back half of that top 10 in the playoff picture. Obviously, they haven't been able to win a race, but they've had pretty good finishes over the course of 2025. And there's a look at the All-Star winner, Nicholas Bauman, sitting a couple of spots ahead of his teammate in Escamilla, riding in 13th, as their teammate Trevor Haley sits further up the road, just inside the top 10 in 9th spot. So all of those guys need very, very good finishes or a win if they want to secure a spot into the playoffs this season. That's what Haley was able to do for the solo-efforted Dark Horse Motorsports team last season. Got the rookie driver into the playoffs and could not grab a championship, but really good performances out of the Indiana native. Looks like we've got some problems, Keelan Belcher, with Jaden Porter slipping through the top 5, and now he's behind his teammate Maggio, who takes over the spot, and Lawson Peele dips into second.
Yeah, losing a little bit of momentum there. Not sure if he don't think he got into the wall or anything. We'll try to get a look and see what happened, as he was in a 3-wide mixer there with Kyle Benson and Lawson Peele going down in here on this lap down into turn number 1, and that is ever a situation you want to be here at Pocono. 3-wide top. It's risky business right there, trying to make up a move that caused him to slip back, and he slipped back into the position in between Steven Maggio and Jesse Prees right there. So losing a bit of ground for that 28 car. Going to try to get it back together. This is a very long race, one of the longest time-wise that we're probably going to have this year. 55-second laps, 90 laps, or 90 laps of it. It's going to be a long one. I mean, if you make a mistake, you want it to be this early.
Yeah, and I mean, there's not much you can do when you're on the outside of 3 wide from two of the best drivers in this series in Peele and Benson. You're in that tertiary lane, kind of nowhere to go when the momentum is swinging down on the inside lane. And so Porter gives way. He lets Curtis Kelly and Steven Maggio by, but he has stopped the bleeding for now. He has settled into P6, the Louisville, Kentucky native, as I believe Lawson Peele has kept in touch with the race leader, Bacalhau. Remember, the gap between Porter and Bacalhau earlier in this run was about 6 to 7 tenths of a second. The last time we crossed the start-finish line, Peele was one of the faster drivers in the top 5, if it was not rookie Steven Maggio. So the Mississippi driver is slowly bringing his way up and may end up in striking distance to Bacalhau over the next several laps.
Talks about it on the Drop in the Hammer pre-race show, Kenneth, how Peele has the best average finish of any driver with 3+ starts here at Pocono at a 3.3, I believe, average finish. So he seems to know his way around Pocono. He slides a little bit there in 3, slides off the corner, trying to keep his momentum up. The car might be breaking a little loose on him. Might have got a little air on the spoiler from Kyle Benson behind him. But yeah, Lawson Peele, he knows his way around this racetrack. Only driver with multiple wins here, so definitely knows a thing or two. And to get some momentum, he talked about these last 2 racetracks that we've tackled, not tracks that he's particularly fond of. So come back to Pocono, try to get some momentum in your favor, close that regular season points battle a little bit, try to make yourself a regular season champion. He's certainly not out of it. Might need a little bit of help, because that is a big gap that Jaden Porter has built, but it would be a good start to maybe steal a win here at Pocono.
He's trying to play defense on Kyle Benson, who's under fire from Curtis Kelly. So if he coughs up a mistake, perhaps there is the opportunity for the Pennsylvania native and the Canadian to make a move. But things are sort of fluctuating in that battle for the lead. Bacalhau had pulled away over the last lap, but Peele just reeled him back in. It's now within a car length between these 2 cars, the Chevrolet and the Toyota. Here comes Peele, peek of the inside for the lead in turn 1.
Curious to see how hard Francisco will race him here. We are still pretty early in this race, a few laps out of the pit window. Going to stick it with them on the outside, maintain that gap, and this is going to allow Benson and Kelly to kind of reel in as we see Peele take a look into the tunnel turn. Side by side, a dangerous part of the track to be side by side, but they're going to maintain it. And it's 2 very talented drivers as we see Kyle Benson almost taking a peek, making it 3 wide, going into turn number 3. Curtis Kelly swarmed in right there. Great racing as they race down into 3. Lawson Peele's going to take over the lead. If Kyle Benson maybe makes a move for second, he will. They're going to be side by side for the second position. Akayao's going to get a little bit of help from Curtis Kelly down the front straightaway.
That's important there, down that long straightaway to turn 1. You're going to want to have the draft. There's contact, and before the corner, Benson and Kelly just swapping door paint as they were heading into the corner, maybe even a bit more as Benson slides up in turn 1, nearly puts Kelly in the wall. They were going at it.
They were out of control that entire corner, Kenneth. I mean, they had pretty much no control. What happened right there is here comes Steven Maggio. Talked about it, one of the fastest cars on the racetrack in that 51. Going to take over the 4th position as Benson lose 2 on that lap. The Maggio machine will pull up to that next Toyota of Curtis Kelly in a 71. That's going to allow Jaden Porter to kind of reel in as well, as we have seen these top 6 kind of break away from the rest of the pack.
And Benson, who has 3 career podiums at this Pocono Raceway. One came in 2021, the other back in 2023. And then that second place finish, that was the last time we were here with the Xfinity Series cars, and his chance to get back at the championship lead. But he's under fire from the 4-time winner this season. There's Maggio peaking up high and Jaden Porter sneaking back in P6. They have fully escalated from everyone else. Jesse Pree is sitting in 7th. He's manning the 2nd pack of cars with AJ Green, Ethan Fonseca Moreno, Austin Reedy, and plenty of others sitting back single file. So whatever is working between this top several drivers at the front end of this field, Keelan, it's definitely working to a T. They are starting to put themselves in a different league as we step into our longest green flag run of the race. Bakayao had stopped the hemorrhaging for a bit, slips back into 2nd, but it's Curtis Kelly to give him a bit of support now, peeking to the inside off turn 3.
Trying to make a move here down into turn number 1, long straightaway. That's why corner exit is so important off of 3, because that speed that you make off the corner is going to carry you all the way down to the turn number 1 as they will stay side by side here. These top 6 continuing to break away a little bit as Kelly big slide off of 2 right there, and I think that's partly managing your race car better, partly kind of staying with each other for the most part, drafting, helping each other out as Kyle Benson 3 wide into the tunnel turn. Oh, this may not end well. It's going to be tight. Benson's going to get it, though. What a move by the 38.
And Bakayao had nowhere to go. He was trying to push Kelly further down to the inside as Benson swooped in to make the move for 2nd place, and Kelly continuously puts the pressure on the Florida native to the inside. Now KBueno Racing, though, with the upper hand down the front straightaway. 3 of those cars right in the single file line. Kelly with nowhere to do, but he has to respond somehow. He'll step behind Jaden Porter before turn 1. And KBueno Racing works in tandem, 3 cars all at once, working towards turn number 1 to try to catch back to Kyle Benson. And we saw a bit of the snake trailing by Peele, specifically out of turn 3, and that is so important as he's now extended his gap to about 0.6 of a second. Obviously, over the long run, the tires will be the biggest differentiator in whether the field thins up or comes back together, but in the draft, specifically in those first 10 to 15 laps, it definitely plays a big role. You make one mistake and you're going to go 5 or 6 cars down the lane. You'll get freight trained by those guys sticking in the draft. Now over this 25-lap run, well, now sitting at 25. Now the caution comes out, though. You got that opportunity to separate yourself, but the field will crunch back up together. Mikey Neal finds trouble. I believe that is near the tunnel turn.
Been a tough few weeks ever since he was that close to winning at Kansas a few weeks back to the 88. Looking like he got into trouble in between 2 and 3 right here. He's right behind Gabriel Dahari, who was on that alternate tire strategy. AJ Green looked like he was really sideways off the corner right there. My goodness gracious. Sliding off the corner, might have bounced off the inside wall and kind of bounced up into Mikey Neal. I don't think Mikey got too significant damage there from what I could tell. Here's a look at the 48. And Beef lows Jimmy Johnson Mafino. Him and Jesse Prees make a little bit of contact, and that shoots the 48 down into the inside wall. And that track is really bumpy down there, Kenneth. I mean, it's really hard to control at the speed you're going. Neal does a great job keeping it off the fence for the most part. But that, when you're shot down a racetrack, it is so bumpy. You saw it on the 48 right there, bouncing up and down. It's kind of similar to going over the grass, kind of, it feels like. I mean, you're just losing it all over the place, but unfortunate for those two guys. Green probably got the most damage out of that from the slap to the inside wall. Wouldn't be too significant, though. They'll probably both be fine as we have an interesting place to put this caution here, Kenneth, because if the race goes green, it's 2 stops, but this is kind of interesting because it's right at 30 laps your fuel window, what Tyler Murray kind of told us earlier. So this is going to be a little bit earlier in May. If it all lines up perfectly, it's going to be pretty close. It's still very early in this race, but this is a very kind of head scratch time for the caution to come out as far as your fuel strategy.
Yeah, when we saw the first caution wave in the first 10 laps of the race, we were thinking there was no way this field was going to come down pit road for tires and fuel. It was way too early to make that call, and Lawson Peele has fully overcooked his pit stall, had to reverse it. That'll lose him some time, so it brings up everything in the air as to who will lead this fight off of pit road. But here at lap 27, ample opportunity for everyone to come in for tires. This is the run off of pit road, heavily contested, but Bacalhau wins the fight. They're nearly 4 wide for second place behind Bacalhau, and Curtis Kelly gets second.
Toyota front row once again. Peele overcooked his pit stop, got a little bit too far to the left, had to back it up and get back in his stall. Try to do the best damage control he could there out of that 12 as we see him kind of into his stall, a little too hot. Onboard look with him. Charlie Byer Photography, onboard camera. Trying to get all you can get coming into pit road, Kenneth. I mean, you think about it on the racetrack, you try to get all you can get, but especially on pit road, I mean, when everybody's bunched up like that, you really try to minimize as much time as you can in the stall.
And we talk about with those next-gen brakes, specifically on pit road, sometimes they don't fully cooperate when you think they are going to. When you're coming into that box and the car can easily slide, it happened there with Lawson. He was a bit off-center as well to the left side near the interior wall, and so had to back it up, get the service, and in turn, he falls back to 8th with that slower pit stop as Bacalhau will take control once again from the virtual Pocono Raceway. KBueno Racing have been stunning so far tonight. Several of those cars in the top 10. Let's see if we can talk with Bacalhau, our in-race reporter here from the Tricky Triangle. Led this race from the jump, fell back a little bit. Now he's back up front. Francisco, you got a copy with us?
I got you.
All right, Francisco, well, really good start. You led a couple of laps, had to be in traffic quite a bit. Some great battles between you and some of the veterans in this series. What did the car feel like over that first 25-lap run?
Well, over the first 15 or so laps, it felt a little bit on the 5 out of 10 scale of loose/tight, and then it progressed looser as the run got closer to 20 laps, and it was a little bit of struggle of trying to put the power down. And I lost the track position there to Lawson and Benson, but got it back thanks to that number 1 pit stall, and I think there was a mistake on the number 12.
Yeah, he had overcooked his pit stall, so that lost him some time. But from what you've seen out on the racetrack, what do you want to continue to approach as the first pit stop comes into play? And should we expect any difficulties from the pit road strategy should this stay green?
Yeah, the track position, keeping the lead at the very least is going to be pretty important, just having that clean air and being able to defend wherever you can. But also just the timing of that caution right there really is going to throw a big wrench into trying to make this on one more pit stop. So it's going to depend a lot on if there's any more cautions when they come out, just as importantly. I feel like if there's another caution or two immediately after this, it could help our chances. You might see some guys decide to bring it down the pit lane.
Well, hopefully we see some good stuff for the rest of this race. Best of luck on the front row starting spot for the restart.
See it.
So that is Francisco Bacalhau will join with his BBR teammates. He'll select the outside of the front row. Curtis Kelly, the fellow Toyota. And boy, that car came to life over the tail end of that run. Started weaving through the field, made some diving moves. And although he didn't really have that much teammate support, he was still able to be the solo wolf, make a move out. And off of pit road, gets a really good starting spot. He'll sit in clean air on the inside of the racetrack. Back to the restart zone. Bacalhau takes the control. Jaden Porter right behind. Green flag waves from Pocono. They're already spreading nearly 2 or 3 wide into turn 1. Bacalhau with the race lead.
It's definitely by design to go to the outside there in front of his teammate in the 28 machine. We see Austin Reedy kind of crack himself into the top 5 for the first time. He smacks the wall, and there he goes. Austin Reedy around into the inside wall off the bumper of Curtis Kelly for the 3rd caution of the race. Right when I mentioned that he's up here for the first time, bounces off the wall in turn 1 in front of Curtis Kelly. That's going to put a damper on his run with some damage on that 34 car. Not the run he needed, sitting right there below the cut line at all.
He is 1 point below the cut line going into this race. And for tonight, just meeting the threshold of minimal starts needed to make an effort for the playoffs. We'll see if we can get a better look at that from potentially the overhead camera. But Reedy had just gotten into the top 5, fighting there with Curtis Kelly. And Keelan, I just think for the most part, they got up together off turn 1. Either Kelly made the move up or Reedy made the move down to escape the outside wall. And I think it was Reedy just bouncing off the barrier, slapping into Kelly, and then getting turned off the front end of Kelly's Toyota Camry. Reedy goes for the spin. Thankfully, for the most part, he escapes full calamity. Everyone else is also able to escape. So everyone goes away without any significant damage. No drivers fully taken out. But we are under our 3rd caution flag of the race already with 60 laps to go. And still a long way to progress. Bacalhau will take the iRacing official pace car. We'll back underway from the yellow flag as Benson and Porter will try to decide who is back in 2nd. And for Reedy there, Keelan, we've seen so much of the struggles, especially over the last year. Back in Season 6, didn't win a race, and then here in Season 7 has yet to find headway despite some pretty good finishes here and there. Consistency has not been the way of the Delaware native, and it falls the same way here. He'll drop to 19th after the spin.
Yeah, 5 top 5s on the season. His last couple races have been pretty solid, though. Kansas got 5th and Iowa got 4th. So the momentum has kind of been on his side. He's on a bit of a top 10 tear if you take away Talladega, which could really be anything. But it looks like he escaped heavy damage for the most part. I didn't think it was that good. I thought he was going head on into the inside wall, but his car kind of did a 360, saved him, and saves him from race-ending damage.
Well, we've had a couple of cautions to get this race going early. 60 laps to go still from the virtual Pocono Raceway. Pole sitter Francisco Bacalhau is still in control. Don't go anywhere. You're tuned in to coverage of the 4 Wide Racing TJ's Team Series from Pocono and Long Pond, Pennsylvania.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
And back live from the virtual Pocono Raceway. Coverage of the 4 Wide Racing TJ's Team Series is brought to you by iRacing. To get your sim racing career started today, head to iRacing.com. By TJ's team. To learn more about the Foundation's mission to end pediatric cancer, go to morethanacape.org. And by Paul's Setup Shop. Here at the Tricky Triangle, 32 laps complete from Pocono. We've had a couple of cautions to plague this one early. Francisco Bacalhau, who led this race from the pole, his third career over his 4-wide tenure, will lead us back to the stripe in turn number 1. Jaden Porter will be on the inside of the row on the front row. Kyle Benson and Curtis Kelly will join us from the 3rd and 4th starting spots. Kenneth Bueno and Keelan Belsha with you. Unfortunately, we do not have our pit road reporter Charlie Byer to bring you some of that extra info down pit road. He is suffering some PC issues. The computer that he's had for maybe 7-ish years on end, I think, has finally given up on him. So prayers to Charlie to get a brand new PC. Hopefully he joins us fresh and going for in the 2 weeks time that we'll have until COTA, our next race and our first road course race since Watkins Glen. Green flag waves once again from Pocono. There's Lawson Peele, who made a mistake down pit road several laps ago. He's going to try and get himself back in the action, but Porter and Kelly fight for second behind Bacalhau in turn 1.
Porter didn't quite get the jump that he's been getting the last few restarts with Francisco up there. He's going to maintain that second position. No Maggio back there, another BBR car sitting in 4th. He's battling with Kyle Benson right now. As we've kind of seen the same characters up here racing hard. Austin Reedy was up there for just a little bit before that last yellow, and Lawson Peele lost his track position. It's going to be fun to watch him climb through the field. I saw it in the Discord earlier today, Kenneth, that track position was going to be at a premium today because of how spread out we can get and how much those tires wear. So it is a big blow for Peele to be back there mired in the pack right now.
And not as hot of a track temperature as we'd see, which, affected the race at Nashville Super Speedway 1 week ago, where we had the clouds come over late and we had a bunch of fog in that last stage of the race. And it did affect the way that the cars handled. It didn't really fall off as much as we thought they would. And with an 86-degree track temperature, it's still relatively warm, but it's not necessarily a place to hit the panic button if you are those Goodyear Eagles. The grip is still mostly there, so you end up in that spot in the middle where things can meander around the mid portion of the run. And like last week, it is going to be a full-on scrap for that track position, especially in the draft early. There's Porter, who sits in 2nd. Curtis Kelly trying to trudge his way from 3rd. And everyone in, like we saw the last run, had gone single file. And Lawson Peele has found trouble. Brings out our most recent caution flag of the race. And the Chevrolet has the right front beat in.
Just mentioned it, Kenneth, how important track position is going to be. He got out to the race lead earlier, was looking good, and came down pit road, and that one mistake is what's going to mire him deep in this pack right there. There was an incident with Rodney Roberts in the 20. He was 3-wide middle, sent him sideways. Peele slides back through the pack. Everybody else does a spectacular job avoiding him and minimizing the damage, but that probably is going to be a significant hit as we see the issue right here. Roberts 3-wide middle contact with the 07 adjusted route right there. There you see slide down in the Peele, down on the bumps right there. Slides back up kind of like we saw AJ Green earlier. Does a good job lifting off the brakes and not cutting it into Tyler Murray on the outside up there. And another look from Tyler Murray, who has seemed to have everything kind of fall in his lap so far today.
And we saw the near miss earlier in the first caution. And here's another miss from the sliding Roberts. And then the sliding Peele. So several guys get away from that, including the league owner, Tyler Murray. Probably some flashbacks from Nashville Super Speedway that he does not want to have. We call that a jump scare for those up at the front. But for Murray, he escapes. And for Peele, he will have to take his Chevrolet down pit road. He has dropped all the way to 28th in track position. And we mentioned just how dangerous that tunnel turn is. You carry so much momentum, and we've seen a ton of guys hit the outside wall throughout this race alone. But in prior trips here to Pocono, you can never escape the possible understeer that kicks in the middle of the apex, and you just find yourself going on a one-way track to that outside barrier, and you ricochet down the inside of the racetrack. I think with Roberts there, since he was in the middle 3 wide, he didn't want to get into his teammate Dahari on the outside, and then he had Justin Rao making the move on the inside, so he just made the contact off the corner and then just slides into Peele, who had absolutely nowhere to go in that instance. And there is the Toyota of Roberts coming in. Lawson Peele in the same note will follow into pit road.
Tough break for Peele. I mean, that guy, he was up there leading some laps earlier, and that one mistake on pit road is really going to cost him and put him behind the 8 ball today. A lot of work to do as we see Francisco Bacallao coming off pit road. Both his BBR teammates of Jaden Porter and Steven Maggio came down pit road, and what they may be trying to do here, Kenneth, is if this thing goes green, they can one-stop it from here, and it's going to be close for everybody who's staying out right now, like new race leader Curtis Kelly. It's going to be a really close one-stop if they make it, but it's going to be a comfortable one-stop for all those BBR cars. So they're going to try to flip the script, and if this thing somehow goes green, they're going to be kind of in the catbird seat back there if they can avoid all the drama.
Yeah, with that first caution waving at lap 25, Keelan, it kind of put the field in a bit of an awkward position because you put yourself in that place where you have to make 2 stops, and with a 75% fuel, you can maybe go 40 laps, but that's pushing it on this tank of fuel. You may go realistically 35 to 37 laps on a tank of gas, give or take. So then you may come down there, and a lot of drivers push for lap 45, the official halfway mark of the race. But BBR is taking this gamble, and we've seen this before. Not from the fuel standpoint, but from the tire standpoint with Steven Maggio. His calls on 2 tires more often than not works out in his favor. Do you like this call here to come a little bit earlier and give up the track position for some gain later on?
I like it. I don't mind it at all because it was such an awkward area where that caution flag flew, and it's awkward to begin with, at least from the information that I saw from Tyler Murray. He was saying 29 to 31 laps is what he was testing, and if that's accurate, that is a really awkward position in a 90-lap race to make this thing a 2-stopper. So I like it because you can comfortably, one stop from here is just so comfortable for those BBR cars, and everybody else kind of not in that situation, so they're not going to be able to push it as hard if this thing goes green to the later stages of the race. Now, what you do is you do sacrifice all this track position, and if this thing continues to breed cautions all throughout the race, you're kind of in a tough situation. But I think as cars continue to drop, there's going to be less opportunities for cautions to fly, and we just need one opportunity to really get spread out, and we can probably avoid a lot of yellows today. So we talked about it earlier. This track can lend itself to a lot of green flag racing, so why not take the gamble and stick with the trend?
And the track position favors right now Curtis Kelly and Kyle Benson. Kelly, we got his first share of laps led tonight from the tricky triangle. He had not led laps since he led 23 at the virtual Kansas Speedway. Earlier this season, he's been on a bit of a slump. The Canadian he hasn't had a finish inside the top 10 since early January at Talladega, a race that basically dictates track position by the second, given the crashes that can happen and just how unpredictable things are. His last several finishes include the 36th place DNF after he went head-on into the outside wall in turn 1 last week in Nashville, then 19th place February 12th at Iowa, January 22nd, where he finished in 15th place, and then 16th at the virtual Darlington Raceway. So he's been on a bit of a skid as of late, and while Kelly hasn't found the checkered flag in 2025, he has been one of the most consistent drivers of the field. So now, as he's got some clean air, he can capitalize on the opportunity given, as Dark Horse Motorsports will share row number 2 with a chance to make this a fun race. Trevor Haley and Nicholas Baumann, those 2 Fords, back in 3rd and 4th. Green flag waves. Cody Kinsey gets way to the inside. We are nearly 3 and 4 wide. Heading back to turn 1. Kelly commands the field to the corner.
Trevor Haley going to slide into the 2nd position there as his teammate Nicholas Baumann going to battle it out with Kyle Benson up there. Lautenschlager into the fence a little bit. This field has really flip-flopped. There's Iowa winner Gabriel Dahari kind of getting into position right there. He's going to get into 4th. As his 2 Dark Horse Racing Fords sit there in 2nd and 3rd. Baumann washes up a little bit, almost hits the wall. That's going to open up the door for the 72 down the short chute.
And Dahari had been creeping through this field. Remember, had started up front at Iowa Speedway, then was able to pass Brandon Hawken, fought him over the last 25 laps, and made it a stellar run to the finish. Got his first career win in his debut. And now wanting a bit more, now that he's got a bit of track position, falls back in line though through the draft, and here comes Kyle Benson, the swoop to the inside to make a move. Those KBueno Racing cars are 17th, 18th, and as we see it with Maggio, he's fallen to 23rd. So they're not necessarily on super fresh tires, but they will have a chance to progress through the field. They're just in the midst of a heap of traffic as here comes Trevor Haley peeking to the bottom alley through the tunnel turn for the race lead.
To be even coming off the tunnel turn here, and it's all going to be about who can get through 3 better and get the good exit down the front straightaway. Lawson Peele, he was really out of shape coming off the tunnel turn back there, as they're going to stay side by side here for the race lead. Haley on the bottom, Kelly up top. It's going to be about maximizing your exit here, trying to get that speed down the front straightaway. Kelly had more room to kind of work it right there, and he's going to maintain the race lead for now.
Kelly
But
hangs
Bauman's
on.
going to help that 4 car.
Trevor Haley with momentum, but he's got his teammate behind, so this time he switches up high to the outside in the high bank turn 1. Remember, Nicholas Bauman is in striking distance, so any bit of draft that Haley can get from his teammate will assist him. Plenty of those guys near the outside wall, and AJ Green. How about the look from the Beefs Chevrolet as he looks to the inside of Dahari? He was involved in one of our most recent accidents, got sideways off of this corner right here, bounced to the inside wall, and then caught Mikey Neal on the way back up, and Benson looking 3 wide to the inside.
Tight here down in the 3 as Green didn't quite get the entry he wanted. Had to kind of shove Dahari out of line right there, but there's not going to be room for Benson to kind of swoop up the corner and carry that momentum down the straightaway, so that's really going to benefit AJ Green the best. Dahari going to push Green down the straightaway, and maybe they can take a peek at this battle for 2nd and 3rd, but yeah, what a turnaround for that 48. We saw him almost in the inside wall earlier, and now he's up here in the top 5. It's funny how quickly things can change.
There's our Charlie Byer Photography onboard camera with Craig Lownslugger. Boy, these cars have been taking a beating from the right side of their machines to that outside wall, particularly in turn 1. We mentioned Lownslugger at the top end of the playoff picture. He was 9th in the standings going into tonight, was in a bit more of a precarious position several races ago, but the Euless, Texas native has been able to work forward and get more consistent runs as of late. Has won several races in his 4-wide career, most recently coming a couple of seasons ago that locked him into the Championship 5. I believe it was at the virtual Talladega Super Speedway. And now here comes rookie Justin Rout. Help from the Murray Reedy Motorsports driver, the Flow Racing car on the inside of Austin Reedy, making it 2 versus 2 in that 195-mile-an-hour run to the first corner. It is very treacherous when you get down there. You got to get hard on the brakes. And how about Jonathan Jurgensmeyer? Jonathan making his first appearance in the top 10 all night long.
A lot of speed under these BBR cars, Kenneth. I mean, we have seen all of them kind of take a look up into the top 10 so far today, as we see that 70 car kind of make his first appearance up here tonight. Having that same speed that the race leaders from earlier, Francisco Bacalhau and Jaden Porter, have found.
Speaking of which, there they are. That's Bacalhau leading the train of his teammates. He's now gotten into the top 12, getting around Escamilla, the 2 Ford Mustangs in sight, and just trying to strike them down, as Maggio, I think, has been struggling a bit, and so has Jaden Porter. Keelan, all these final laps, there's Porter in that prime yellow and pink machine on the inside of DBR's Jesse Prees. There's Ryan Pandicio and Lawson Peele around them. They're 2x2 entering turn 1. And then Steven Maggio, who we thought could possibly perform well through this run, just like Bacalhau has. Well, they have just been all over the place, and now Porter finds himself middle, 3 wide, the hunted here down the short chute to turn 2.
This was kind of the sacrifice that they took when they went on this alternate strategy. We mentioned it, track position, it's so important. So when you take an alternate strategy and sacrifice track position for possibly a better position by the end of this race, you're going to have trouble carving through the field, especially at a track like Pocono, where there's 3 opportunities to pass, and it's a long time until you get that opportunity coming off 3 going into turn number 1. So if you don't get your exits down, and if you're stuck in the middle of a battle, it's going to be hard to really set yourself up for a pass. So track position is so important. They sacrificed it, and they're hoping it kind of helps them out towards the back end of this one.
Well, they are on old tires. Their stops, all 3 of them, had been about 5 to 4 seconds. So all of them just for a splash of fuel only. It's only to extend the game should this race stay green. but they will lose out on the grip side of things, so that's where they are so far back, and Bacalhau has pressed forward despite the odd circumstances with not being on the best tire set as everyone else in this field. There's a look at Bauman, who has settled nicely in second, and I think this is a bit of deja vu, Keelan, isn't it, from the All-Star race at Las Vegas, where it was the other way around. Bauman had gone by Kyle Benson, moved to the inside, and Curtis Kelly made the charge in those waning laps on fresh tires. Bauman nearly wadded it up off turn 4, allowed Kelly the inside look, but it was too little too late for the Canadian, and Bauman took the All-Star race win. Now they're 1-2 as AJ Green peeks under the Dark Horse Motorsports body armor car of Trevor Haley for third.
Yeah, a lot of the same characters that we saw at that All-Star race are up here racing fast here at Pocono to this point, as Green continuing to try to make a move on that Trevor Haley car. These Dark Horse Racing cars have really started to find their legs as the season has progressed. We talked about how they were kind of struggling towards the long runs at the beginning of the year, and they have kind of really put themselves in good positions here as the season progresses, put themselves both on the plus side of the cut line right now. So the 14 and the 4, they've really found themselves as the season progresses.
And he continues in second. Haley did stifle the pressure from AJ Green as they carry Kyle Benson and Gabriel Dahari with them. So it just continues to be a fight between those in the top 5, and for a bulk of them, they are just pushing where they are. They have sort of pulled away from everybody all the way back throughout the field. Well, as Curtis Kelly gets some more laps led to his career tally and to his tally in Season 7, we are past halfway here from the Tricky Triangle. Why don't we turn up the sounds and crank it up here on the KBueno Racing Network. Beautiful sounds of these next-gen race cars blitzing through the Pocono Raceway. We are at lap 50, 40 laps to go from Long Pond, Pennsylvania, and we just had a great battle build up for second place. AJ Green found his way by both of the Dark Horse Motorsports' Ford Mustangs, and now as Trevor Haley and Bauman succumb to finish 4th and 5th in that battle as we continue through. Kyle Benson has slipped into 3rd, and Curtis Kelly, Keelan Belsha, has pulled away 1.2 seconds as we step into our second longest green flag run of the day.
Sure has that 48 on the move in a race where he really needed to build some momentum. It has been a struggle the last several weeks for AJ Green. I said it last week. Every time I check the Discord mid-race and he sends that emoji with the thumbs up, I'm like, oh, tough week for AJ Green. Got 5th at Atlanta before Christmas, and since then has not been able to put together a top 10 finish, even with some good average running positions throughout the race. So, been trying to finish these races off, and started back in 14th today, has got his way up into 2nd, and he was in trouble earlier. We thought it could have been wraps for him, but he has done a good job moving his way to the front and putting himself in the 2nd position. There's trouble back there. Juan Escamilla.
Juan Escamilla going for a slide off turn 1 and pancakes it near the inside wall. Yellow flag waves on another long green flag stretch. So this will test the field down pit road with 40 laps to go. And Escamilla's struggles this season continue here at Pocono. This is on the outside.
Back there.
3 wide in the middle of turn 1. That's Lawson Peele, Brandon Banks on the inside, Jonathan Jurgensmeyer on the very top, and I think they may have just stacked it up as they were still 3 abreast. Yeah, Banks just makes a slight contact in the effort to slide draft, and Escamilla goes sideways into the inside wall.
Seen that story a couple times today, Kenneth. Just trying to get up there, side draft, get as close to that car as you can, because the draft and momentum like that off another car is so important that you need it. And trying to make the move right there. We saw it from Eric Schaefer earlier, that time from Brandon Banks, and it's come at the expense of a couple guys. Tough luck for Escamilla. It's been a downward season for the most part, his rookie year. Trying to find some momentum as the season continues. Not going to find it today at Pocono. Its strategy is going to be interesting here, Kenneth, because I just don't know if you can one-stop it from here. If you get some caution laps, maybe, but it's going to be really tight.
Yeah, you may have to stretch it, but the good news is that drivers will have the opportunity to save a bit of the gas on the pace laps behind the pace car, but it will not guarantee you a run to the end. Remember that alternative strategy that BBR had implemented without taking fresh Goodyear Eagles. This caution puts them in a bit of a weird spot because they, for the most part, did not gain track position apart from Bacalhau, who stepped into the top 10 and was 8th at the wave of the yellow flag as he sits behind his teammate Gabriel Dehari. Porter and Maggio had a rougher route moving through the front of this field, so now with a bit of that kill track position, they have to go in with everyone else. Curtis Kelly will take the field in from another long green flag run, and we'll see who gets the win off of pit road from the tires and fuel. We expect no different calls, but at this juncture of the race, you could find some 2-tire stops in there as well. Curtis Kelly finds his way to his pit box. Everyone else ends up there as well. Bacalhau takes the front row starting spot from pit road, and everyone will get in this time. All the jacks are up. Feeding time here at the zoo. And there's a quick stop from AJ Green. Looks like maybe 2 stops. Kyle Benson wants to beat him out of there, and so does Jaden Porter. AJ Green and Porter fight it to the line, and AJ Green will win the race off pit road on a 13-second stop.
Jaden Porter, he just gained a lot of track position. He came into the pits from 15th, and looks like a 2-tire stop there, no less. As we get a replay here, Green. Right side jacks go up. Fills it full of fuel. Left sides go up. It was just a quick stop for his guys. Don't know if he sat there and got the complete fill of fuel he needed. He's probably got enough, though. Didn't quite run that tank completely dry, so new leader for the 48. But Jaden Porter, he definitely, more than likely, took 2 right there, and that's going to get his track position back up. I'm curious to see how 2 will work for that 28. He's dropping back.
Looks like the
Might have got a
Kentucky
penalty there.
native has got a pit road speeding penalty. So Porter will have to let the entire lead lap field by, and after getting second off the line off pit road, just a little too quick as he was exiting in the way to beat AJ Green to the line. And so Porter now, his progress halted as he will move to the rear end of the field. Only with that 10-second stop, that was a 2-tire call. So I goofed a bit there, Keelan, because I thought Green had taken 2 tires, of how fast it looked and just how quickly he was able to get to the front. But nonetheless, Green takes 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles. It's probably just a case of how much fuel he wanted to take, as Porter in the background will take a second look at pit road and will try to top him off on gas. And maybe some tires. We'll see if he ends up getting the other 2 on his Chevrolet because of that pit road speeding penalty, now that he does not have the track position. And AJ told us on a Google form prior to this season beginning that his goal for this season was to at least win 1 race and make the championship round. He is one of the former champs of the series. It came the way of the Gen 6 Season 3 era of this 4-wide racing series, but he hasn't been as successful since. In the next gen era, he's won a couple of races, sure, but he has not been in that same exact position to run contentiously for another 4-wide title. We've seen plenty of new winners emerge this season. AJ Green could be the most recent different winner to take the top spot. He's got Kyle Benson on the outside, Keelan, and what do we expect from AJ Green on the restart?
That is a driver that really wants to win. So I really couldn't tell you. I don't know what I'd be thinking if I was a 48, but everybody should be on the same strategy up here, 4 tires and fuel. So you got the track position to your advantage. You're going to want to take advantage of that to the best of your ability. Keep that car in a clean air, because we have seen clean air be the deciding factor in several races this year, just having that advantage. But you also have a very hungry Kyle Benson to your outside. 2 guys who have been on kind of a winless skid this year, and dating back to last season, and in AJ's case, the season before that. So guys who really want to get in victory lane, they're going to be racing hard into turn 1, try to get that clean air as we close in on 46 laps to go.
Well, here we go. Possible green flag stint that will take us to the end if we stay caution free. It's AJ Green and Kyle Benson to the green flag waving, and the long road to turn 1. Bauman getting the push from Kelly on the inside, but Green is clear of the field as they go nearly 3 wide in turn 1.
Benson got a good push from that 30 car. Francisco Bacallao down into turn number 1, and they're going to be racing hard down into the tunnel turn. When you get up there and side draft them, not quite. Green's going to be clear as the top 6 gets kind of single filed out. Here comes Bacallao, move to the inside. He's trying to go back for that race lead. He's going to get around Kyle Benson in the tunnel turn. Gabriel Zahari in a 72 uses up the 38 a little bit. Guarding the wall back there. That's the 14 of Nicholas Bauman, as the BBR teammates of Dahari and Bacallao are going to be side by side down into 3.
Bauman on the back foot after tank slapping the outside wall off the tunnel turn. Dahari on the inside, and they're letting Green pull away. He's up by 6 and now 0.7 of a second off turn 3. Dahari gets back in line, not to the offense of Kyle Benson to fire on the inside lane to turn 1. Will he have a bit of help? There's Austin Reedy in the background, about a car length back.
Teammate in Reedy would really help out this 38 right here. We've seen teammates been able to work together pretty successfully. As Bacallao gets a little bit of breathing room at his back end, he can kind of set his sights on the 48 of AJ Green right there, as draft is going to be really important. I think if that 72 and the 30 can get hooked up down these straightaways, they're going to close in with ease as Green goes wide in the tunnel turn. It's a good run for Bacallao. Might be able to make a move into 3. He's going to lay back just a little bit, try to get that corner exit. It is a long straightaway back home to turn number 1.
Bacallao moved up to 8th in that last green flag run on relatively old tires while his BBR teammates struggled a bit. Bacallao shined in the sunlight. And now they're nearly going 3 wide behind as here comes Bacallao, the peak to the inside for the lead. Green will try to play defense in that tertiary lane, but it may not be enough. Bacallao switches up front. He's back in control.
Doesn't quite have enough to cross him over. Going to push him down into the tunnel turn. Will 48 make another move at it? He's going to stick behind him in the tunnel turn, not try to force it side by side, as Bacallao looks like the only car in the top 5 to hit that tunnel turn good. As look at how big of a gap he built right there in just 1 corner. That tunnel turn, so decisive, Kenneth. It's really the corner that makes or breaks the entire lap.
And despite AJ Green taking 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles, it appears he's struggling on his set of rubber, as Kyle Benson may have a shot to strike on the inside before turn 1. Bacalhau making sure that he breaks the draft from everyone else. They're all single file, so a good opportunity for everyone to work together. Now Benson has to deal with the attempted strike down low. Curtis Kelly trying to make a look underneath the bottom alley. Gabriel Dahari back there to help in that yellow and black Chevrolet. And everyone, it appears, Keelan, in synchronization is hitting that outside wall. No one has been safe from the wrath of the three-headed beast, as Benson strikes the bottom end of AJ Green. Tough look there to the tunnel turn, unsuccessful, and they will continue to be single file, as Dahari will look again, this time for the podium spot in third, looking for another great finish in his stellar rookie campaign in the 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series. He's got to look in front of Benson. He swaps in front of the Pennsylvania native. Fight not done, though, for third off the final corner.
To make a little bit of a block there, but he's on his quarter panel, going to be able to side draft going into turn number 1. They door bang just a little bit. Up in the third line goes Dahari, the second line. Maybe pits down to 38. Constrict his exit a little bit as Benson is really sideways. He was back end facing the wall nearly, as he's going to lose a lot of ground right there.
And there's the run from Dahari as he tries to peek to second, nearly makes contact with AJ Green, the Clemens, North Carolina native, off the tunnel turn. There's the crossover attempt and contact. Green is spun to the inside wall. Will that bring out the yellow? Yes, it will. And Green, who led a couple of laps early, will now be faced with near elimination.
And you got to feel for AJ Green, Kenneth. It has been troublesome last few weeks, and right when he has an opportunity to run in the top 5, get a good finish. Trouble right here, running in the second position. He was leading some laps earlier. As we see the 48, he had been struggling with that tunnel turn ever since the restart, and right there, just got a bad exit. Dahari kind of slides up into him. They make a little bit of contact, and right into the inside wall. Great nose first.
This is the second look at it. Dahari peaked up high, dove it hard into the braking zone. I think he was trying to get Green to overshoot this corner, and he got what he wished for, but at the caveat of Green coming back down the racetrack and getting into the front end of Dahari's Chevrolet. And that's the second time tonight that we've seen Green in trouble here at this tunnel turn. Remember how he hit off of, I believe it might have been Jesse Prees or another car on the outside, and then went to the inside wall, came back up the track where he collected Mikey Neal. And for Green, with the left front damage on his car, we'll probably have to get that fixed as he plummets to 29th on the running order, and will be at another yellow flag in tonight's race with about 30 laps to go. And what a push to the front from Francisco Bacalhau, who we thought on that alternative pits strategy, what he could do through the next run, weaved his way through the field, made good progress out of it, and when that caution came out before this one, made the move down pit road, and he was blitzing from there. But one thing we did see in that opening run from the pole is that he was quick early and then just sort of fell off later on in the run. Maybe he learned his lesson and trying to be a little more consistent throughout the entirety of the stretch, as Curtis Kelly will elect to stay out. Daniel Moore will follow, so these not stonks, but still kind of stonks cars will elect to remain out on the racetrack as everyone else comes in for service.
Don't know if anybody's going to take tires here. It should just be a pretty standard top that car off. Maybe 2 tires if you feel like you have enough time. It should just be pretty standard. Everybody's going to top off here, and they should be good to the end of the race. 2 tires from the 30 of Francisco Bacalhau going to win the race off pit road. Nick Bauman in the 14, 38 of Benson. Michael Newbraw with a big pit stop right there. Along with Lawson Peele, he went fuel only, and the guy who lost his track position and couldn't make his way through the field for half of this race now going to be up there in the top 10. I don't know about the strategy to stay out though, Kenneth. I'm Curtis Kelly, because we're not 100% sure if we can make it to the end. If you're that 71, you know you'd make it if you come in right now, and now everybody else, they're going to be free to push to the end of the race, and they have to do a little bit of saving. It's going to be interesting to see how that works out, because I think it's a big gamble not worth taking.
Yeah, with all of the old tires that they will have, coupled with the fact that, you know, they are saving fuel, and maybe they are praying for the possibility of a flurry of yellows that'll happen from here on out. And there is Michael Newbraw that you mentioned into the top 10 for the first time tonight. And as we touched on with our playoff picture on the Dropping the Hammer pre-race show, he's at the very bottom of this list. 18th, 11 points out of the playoff cut line. We mentioned some of those names in this race that need a good one tonight. We know AJ Green, 20 points above the cut line, but he may be on a further fall if this race doesn't go to plan for him. Nicholas Baumann, who's been back and forth throughout this race, is looking to stay alive inside the top 15. His teammate Trevor Haley has bounced around the field a bit as well. He's going to be 11 points above the cut line before this race. And then, of course, that 1 point buffer between Banks and Reedy, which both of them have had different types of races. Reedy has had mostly the upper hand, but that continues to fluctuate throughout the race. And Michael Newbraw there with a chance at getting back into this thing playoff-wise, even though he doesn't have a race win in 2025. He'll be on the outside of the tertiary row, or I believe the fourth row if we look at it, as Curtis Kelly and Daniel Moore, the pair of teammates, elect to stay out here. A gutsy call for Kelly. Daniel Moore saying, why not throw the kitchen sink at it? He'll try to get some track position in these final 28 from Pocono, but very dangerous names back there. We know Kyle Benson has led this race a good amount. Lawson Peele has spent a solid amount of time at the front, and I'm awfully surprised, Keelan, we haven't seen much of Peele since he made that mistake and got into the accident with Rodney Roberts. He got his car completely pristine now, and it's just a matter of working through the field and being where he was at the jump.
I think that's a testament to how big of an issue track position has been today. It has been so important to get track position to the best of your ability, because we saw guys like Peele and Stephen Maggio, two of the faster race cars we've seen out here today, have been mired back in traffic ever since they got put back there. So now they're up here in the top 10, they're going to have a better opportunity. But Francisco Bacalhau in that 30 car, probably in the catbird seat right now with these two guys stand out in front of him, and he's going to have free roam to push as hard as he wants to when he's good to the end.
Bacalhau told us preseason that his greatest accomplishment on iRacing was dominating the Nashville race back in Season 3, where he led 189 laps. And while the Music City gave him an awful tune 1 week ago, he's going to look for some shining moments here at Pocono. After starting on the pole, he rolls from the second row in third place. Curtis Kelly brings us back to rolling from Pocono Raceway, and already there is Bacalhau peeking to the inside, pulling the trigger for the race lead in turn 1.
It's the perfect jump by that 30 car. Kenneth did exactly what he needed to do. He's going to be right there on the bottom. Can he slide up off the corner? Kelly's going to play some pretty good defense, and they're going to stay side by side as they go down into the tunnel turn. Kyle Benson clear for the third spot. They're going to get single filed out going into the tunnel turn. Lawson Peele, where'd he come from? He's going to put himself in the fourth position going into this tunnel turn, making a move on Daniel Moore. Moore sliding up the racetrack, going to surrender to Baumann, that fifth position, as Bacalhau hunting down Curtis Kelly for the race lead.
And the field in the back half of this top 10, they are absolutely engulfing that 77 car, under fire from the Fastenal Ford Mustang of Nicholas Baumann now, although Moore will hold on to his position and will stay in the top 5. Here's a charging Benson in the draft. They're snake trailing down this front straightaway. And does Bacalhau have another shot at it? He'll look to the inside, back out before turn 1. But it's a methodical effort to make a move at the race leader. Bacalhau has been so strong, particularly in the second sector. And as he mounts a run off of turn 1, does he look to the inside again?
Kelly block going down into the tunnel turn. He's going to show his nose, and Kelly's not going to play too much defense until they get into the corner. Going to try to get that exit off of 2, down into 3. Really good corner by Kelly for the position he was in, as Kyle Benson takes a swipe under the 30 for the second position. Maybe take a swipe at the lead as the caution comes out again.
And it's Ryan Pandiccio through the short chute off the tunnel turn. Hard end front nose damage. And I believe Brandon Gillis may have nearly been the secondary car involved in it. We saw a bit of Cody Kinsey that exited from this race. But it is Ryan Pandiccio, the not stonks, but still kind of stonks. Number 63 brings us our most recent yellow, 65 laps in the books. We'll get another look at it. This is from turn 2, inside on Jonathan Jurgensmeyer. Oh, and he just lost it prior to the corner. He hit the apron, and I don't think he made any contact with anyone other than Dusty Applin, who had nowhere to go, was trying to back out before he hit the rear end of the Ford. And Pandiccio finds himself in a huge mess off that second corner. And I don't think we've seen this quite yet, Keelan, a driver just straight up losing it on quarter entry, but Pandiccio had stepped out of the car, I think wheel hopped quite a bit, merged through the apron, and the attempt to save it did a great job until Applin gave him a bit of that help. And Pandiccio goes nose first into the wall.
Cold tires, trying to get as much as you can going into these corners, getting on the brakes, and steps the race car sideways, and that is what 63 had right there. Got away from major damage, it looks like, but going to be 2 straight weeks involved in an incident, trying to turn the season around, as it has been a rough go at things.
So 65 laps in the books. We are nearly to the home stretch of this race from the Tricky Triangle and race number 17 of this Season 7 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series. Don't go anywhere. We've got more from Long Pond, Pennsylvania next.
Dirt Racing 24 is available now.
High aerial shot of the leaders taking the 1 to green signal under our most recent caution at lap number 67 of this 225-miler from the virtual Pocono Raceway. And welcome back to our coverage on the KBueno Racing Network. Kenneth Bueno and Keelan Belsha with you in the booth for all of the action. Well, Keelan, prior to our start of tonight's race, you ran us through the Keelan's keys to the race. I think with every passing race, sometimes we got to remind these drivers what you got to do to stay alive here.
And I mean, especially coming to what could be the final restart of the day. If there's anybody out there who has close contact to their drivers right now, they ought to take a look at these keys, take one last look at them, and think about what they got to do, because it's crunch time right now, Kenneth.
And a lot of that had come from maximizing corner exits. And, you know, we mentioned going easy on the tunnel turn, where some of the drivers have been very aggressive. We've seen 2 and 3 wide action there through most of this race. Some of them resulting in some good moments, and some of them resulting in some problems for drivers, most recently with the likes of Ryan Pandiccio and AJ Green, that have brought our set of most recent cautions in this race. We'll try to get things going with a little over 20 laps to go. And we mentioned Curtis Kelly, Daniel Moore. Both of them are still in the top 5. They stayed out under the most recent segment of stops, so they are on a different fuel call than everyone else, and perhaps either we'll have to continue saving, or they will have to come down pit road at least one more time before this race is all said and done. For the most part, everyone else have come down pit road with a chance at solidifying themselves good to the checkered flag at lap 90. So for them, concerns are the track position and the tires beneath the race cars. Will try to get this restart going at lap number 68. The Canadian Curtis Kelly will bring us back to the action into the Geico restart zone. Kyle Benson to react on the high side. Green flag back in the air.
Dumper Kelly doing what he needs to do. Going to clear both of the Bacalhau and Benson cars going down into one. They have to get the good exit off of one. We've seen on these restarts the best opportunity to make a pass has sometimes been coming off of one when the leader kind of messes up their exit. It opens up the door for that second place car as they start to funnel off the wall, next to the wall, down into the tunnel turn. Kelly going to widen it out, try to go easy into the corner and get a good exit going down into three. As we see Lawson Peele has worked his way into third. He led a lot of laps here in the early stages of this race.
The two-time Pocono winner is looking now at Kyle Benson. This is basically the mirror image of what we saw in the opening run of the race. It almost took 50% of this event for Lawson Peele to get back where he is now at a chance at a race win and third career here at the Tricky Triangle. He'll follow in the footsteps of Kyle Benson. They're still a ways away from Curtis Kelly, who's about 2 to 3 car lengths up the road, and Bacalhau, who calmly sits in fourth, firmly had the race lead earlier on in the night. Everyone mostly single file. Daniel Moore, outside look on Trevor Haley. That's for P6, and nearly everyone's hitting the wall. And Tyler Murray goes hard into the inside barrier. He brings Timothy Cook with him, and it's under the racing line. They straighten their race cars out, so I believe we will stay green before the second week in a row. Tyler Murray finds deep trouble.
He's going to have to see if he can nurse that thing to pit road with no left front tire. Going to bounce it off the wall right there. Going to be hard to get it turned down onto pit road. He should be able to do it, though, the way he's been able to drive this race car. But it is a tough break for Tyler Murray. The hits just keep on coming. Post-All-Star race, it has been a skid for him after the wreck at Nashville. Avoided the wrecks tonight, but couldn't avoid that one right there as the race stays green. Everybody single file for the most part up front.
The Middletown, Delaware native unfortunately involved, and now everyone's hitting the wall off turn one. That was Bacalhau, Haley, Daniel Moore, and now they're 3 wide, nearly entering the tunnel turn. Bacalhau will back out, Porter will swing up high, and the Dark Horse Motorsports Ford Mustang down on the inside. He pinches under low, while Kyle Benson on his route looks for the race lead in turn 3.
Who's Lawson Peele going to help? Down into 3. Going to be all about getting the exit right here. Kelly's going to have the opportunity to pinch the 38 down, try to get the exit. They're both slipping and sliding as Peele gets his car off the corner. May have an opportunity to push the issue, maybe make a 3 wide move. Here he goes, 3 wide for the race lead back to 1.
We've seen it before, but can Peele complete the story? He goes to the inside and 1 Benson through the middle, and Curtis Kelly, give him credit for staying out up front as long as he has been. We're still 3 abreast off the first quarter. They're still trying to make it work. Peele settles back in third. Jaden Porter on the attack, and so is Benson for the hunt, looking to the tunnel turn. He's got to look to the inside. Kelly playing the defense, and we are still 2 by 2 going to turn 3.
Kelly's reminded me a lot of Gabriel DeHari a couple weeks ago at Iowa. The faster cars behind him, but playing great defense on the outside. I don't know if he's going to be able to stick with him, though. Benson got really good rotation in the center of the corner, and that's going to give him the race lead. Kyle Benson leads at Pocono. Can Curtis Kelly fight back down into 1? Going to have a little bit of help from the 12 of Peele. He's blocking down the front straightaway. This is great racing back to 1.
Benson with a chance to win at his hometown sim racing track, but Kelly fighting back hard on the inside near the yellow line in turn 1. All that banking you can use to deal the dirty air to Benson's number 38 Ford Mustang. Benson again with a response to the outside, and keep in mind the 3rd and 4th place car. Peele and Porter, they have a chance to significantly alter the draft off of these corners with all the momentum they carry. And for Porter, what a comeback it was after getting a pit road speeding penalty earlier on in this race. He has a chance for a top 5. Curtis Kelly back to the inside in 2nd place for turn 3, and Kyle Benson now can maintain the pressure. He holds on to the lead off the final corner, and a look on board with his Ford Mustang.
Gonna try to get that nose back up in front of the 12 to kind of put it on him going into corner entry. Gives a little bit of draft to Curtis Kelly to keep them side by side down the front straightaway. Big deep dive by the 77 and the 12. They're both gonna wash up a little bit as Benson's gonna try to get that corner exit down this first short chute right here. Back down to the tunnel turn. Will Peele have an opportunity to make a move as Moore is in the fence back there?
He got tagged from behind. We're going to take a look at who the car was. Now,
Whoa.
Escamilla and Gabriel Dahari get into it. Outside wall hit, yellow flag out with 18 laps to go. And the Iowa winner, Gabriel Dahari, goes head on into the wall. Got sideswiped by Juan Escamilla. And there's his torn up Chevrolet as he gets it back to full song. Yellow flag late in the going. Under 20 to go in a 3-car accident.
A couple different incidents that happened, starting with Daniel Moore back there in the 77. Here's the Dahari incident. You see Escamilla 2 cars up in front of him, in front of Eric Schaefer right there. He goes into the tunnel turn. They're all trying to avoid Daniel Moore right here. Oh, Nicholas Bauman, his teammate, slides up right in front of him, and Escamilla just not enough time to react, and he gets tagged and sent up into the Dahari. Damages both race cars.
There's a look from the Indianapolis native. As he tries to merge back up into traffic, his teammates in front and stacks up. The 41 car gets him hard into the wall, and then behind him is that's where Gabriel Dahari just gets stacked up in the incident with nowhere to go. And there was one car who was at the inside wall. There's Dusty Applin, the rookie. We didn't see him fully involved in the incident quite yet in the moment. He was at the very back of this thing, right behind Christopher Bishop. Tail end of the incident. I don't know where he got tapped from or whether there was some sort of hit to the outside wall. Oh, there it is. Bishop trying to avoid a spinning Craig Parks up the banking, and Applin getting the worst of it.
All started up there with the Moore incident, but how about this racing we have seen up front, Kenneth? This has just been spectacular stuff from Benson, Kelly, Porter, and Peele.
It's been remarkable, and not the first time that we've seen these several drivers tango. I mean, you can mix it up here and there with the likes of Steven Maggio or a bit of Brandon Hawken, but for the most part, these guys have been in the realm of each other for so many years in this series, and tonight it all comes to a conclusion where these three have a realistic shot at winning this race inside potentially 15 laps to go, as most of the field will come down pit road. They are led by Curtis Kelly, who finally decides this is his time to make an effort down pit road. He'll get the fresh tires and the fuel. So for the most part, all of these drivers confirmed good to the end of this race at lap number 90. All the guys at the front now have to play the game of track position defense as everyone tries to chase them down the road. Let's get a word with Kyle Benson, who's in the race lead now. Kyle, you got a moment to talk with us?
Yes, sir. What's going on?
All right, Kyle, we're feeling good. We hope you are as well. You're in the race lead. Very hard-fought moments between yourself, Lawson Peele, and the list continues. What has it been like in the lead battles and how aggressive it's been so far in this race?
You got to be aggressive. It's just the car promotes so much draft, and it's so hard to pass when you're not drafting with somebody. But definitely got to be aggressive, and you got to make moves, and you definitely got to try to keep yourself on the clean air, because if you don't, you're just gonna blow the front tires off, and you just be a real mess.
And with what you've seen over this race, I mean, ton of the strategy. You guys had come down pit road a little while ago, but for the most part, you all seem to be relatively good on fuel until the checkered flag. What do you try to do here now that, you know, there's a tire difference with those who pitted all the way behind you guys, and there's still a bit of a strategy game that's playing over right now?
Oh, you know, you got to make this 38 pickle car as wide as you can, and just try to hold them off. I'm itching for a win, and I think I got the shot to win here. I've been fast here, and I hope I can kind of get it done. But definitely, I don't know where the tire guys are at, but I know the guys around me. I took 2. I know Francisco took 2, so I don't know the guys around me. I don't know if they took 2 or not. But I'm definitely just gonna have to make this car wide and try to get one here.
Well, it would be magical if the Pennsylvania driver could get a win here in Pennsylvania. Kyle, best of luck on the next restart. Hopefully, we'll be talking to you at the end of the race.
Appreciate it, buddy. Thank you.
That's Kyle Benson, the Williamsport, Pennsylvania native, will join his Murray Reedy Motorsports teammates. He's got the race lead as we will double them up for the restart inside 14 laps to go. We've had everyone cycle back front, And all those who pitted are just now starting to cycle out through the field, but look how thin it looks, Keelan Belsha. That is a product of the drivers that are still catching up for the most part, but we've seen a ton of attrition over this race. As we see it, 24 of the 33 starters on the lead lap.
Certainly has fallen that way. And I bet you take a look at this top 5. The same characters we saw in the opening 30 laps. They've all had different stories today, different strategies, different ways they've had to climb through the field, one of them even being involved in a caution. But they have all found their way up here in the crunch time. 15 to go, restarting with 14 to go with an opportunity to race for this race win. And it's some of the most talented drivers we have in this field as Kyle Benson looks to break the winless streak, not for just himself, but for the whole team itself at Murray Reedy Motorsports. Lawson Peele tries to even up Steven Maggio with 4 of them. Jaden Porter, regular season points leader, trying to get his second of the year. Steven Maggio trying to get number 5 and tie the rookie record. There are so many storylines up here in the top 5 to follow. It's a feel-good story for anybody who finds their way into victory lane.
Benson's last win in this series was at Daytona in the playoffs back in Season 6. His prior non-super speedway win was back in Season 5 at the Charlotte Roval. You got to go a ways back before you find a natural oval win for Kyle Benson, who will lead this field out of turn number 3. He's got the Season 4 champ and 2-time Pocono winner, Lawson Peele, on the outside with a pair of BBR teammates manning row number 2. And take a peek at 5th and 6th place. Row number 3, Steven Maggio finally gets good track position, and so does DBR's Jesse Prees. Green flag once again waves from Long Pond, Pennsylvania, and it is an even jump by the leaders chasing to the high bank, turn 1. Here comes Porter, 3 wide, looking for the lead.
Oh, it's going to be tight to see who can get the edge off this corner. Francisco Bacalao lurking as Kyle Benson's going to get the edge off the corner. Going to be a block down to the bottom of Porter, break the draft from the 12 a little bit, try to keep those guys side by side, doing a good job managing as those BBR cars see if they may help their teammate out or if it's every man for himself as we close in on the last couple laps of this race. Peele's going to get clear for 2nd. Porter clear for 3rd as Bacalao and Maggio going to be side by side for the 4th position.
Those are 3 KBueno Racing teammates, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Porter, Bacalao, and Maggio. They've helped each other prior in this race. They're back together, so another chance that they could assist in getting either one of them another race win this year. We're nearly 3 wide, a couple of rows back. Eric Schaefer in the middle of action with AJ Green down to the inside with Curtis Kelly on fresh tires to follow. Maggio beats Bacalao to the punch. That's for 5th place. Benson still in the lead by a car length.
Porter in the fence back there. That's going to stack them up from 3rd on back. Not too badly as we start to see the top 2 start to break away a little bit. This could be a classic 4-wide classic between Benson and Peele. Another story written in their history books here at Pocono.
And there's the Charlie Byer Photography onboard camera with Benson. Said, I'm going to make this car wide in this final 13. But he's got Lawson Peele hunting down to the pickle car rear bumper. Is there anything that Peele has over this final stretch to make a move? We've seen that 2nd place car get a good run, particularly off turn 1, and it's about whether you checkmark the risk of taking the inside or outside in that very narrow tunnel turn. Peele dives it onto the inside with a possible chance at sneaking under Benson's Ford Mustang, but to no avail. Single file in our first proper side-by-side battle. Inside the top 10, they're shuffling all over the place. AJ Green, the winner in this battle for P10.
Curtis Kelly on those fresh tires and fuel. Going to try to make some track position up. He was on that different strategy where he stayed out a little bit earlier. Didn't quite get all the caution laps he needed to save to the end, so he had to go down pit road. But he's in front of Mikey Neal is around, going into turn number 3, going to slide back up the racetrack. Everybody's going to avoid him, but the caution flag is back out. We're going to have a restart with under 10 laps to go.
2nd time spin for Mikey Neal. He's been through the ringer tonight as he ends up in an accident entering turn 3, escapes with no damage to his Mountain Dew Chevrolet. But it's at the back of the field where this begins, and I believe Keelan Belsha, the issue starts here, sends a near block to Craig Lounslager. Probably didn't like the message, and then Ryan Pandicio looks to the inside. I believe it may have been the stack up right about here. I don't know if Lounslager was trying to side draft or whether there was a message sent. But nonetheless, Mikey Neal goes for the spin like a top in turn 3. And thankfully, no one else gets involved. I think there was one car that had to slow down just to avoid getting into Neal's Chevrolet. But for the most part, everything is all good. But the yellow flag flies. And like you said, Keelan, we're getting down to this very narrow stretch of laps where things are really going to amp up intensity-wise. Those 2 and 3 wide moves may start to look like 4 and 5 wide moves if possible. And if you're Benson, are you a little worried because you're in that catbird seat?
Yeah. You try to forget about that, Kenneth. When you're in the race lead, you try to replace all worry and turn it into motivation. That's what I'd be trying to do if I was Benson. But short answer, yes. Yeah, I'm very worried if I'm Kyle Benson. I haven't been in victory lane in so long, especially on one of these ovals. He may never beat those allegations, considering this is a triangle. But he's up there in the race lead right now with an opportunity make something happen, and I feel like he's played his cards right, perfect on these last couple restarts, been able to get up there, make his car as wide as he can, not let Peele get to his inside, and he's been able to end off for the most part. I thought during that 3-wide battle when Jaden Porter took it 3 wide, it was going to be hard for him to maintain, but he has been racing that car perfect so far, and that's all he needs to do. Is we see Jaden Porter putting the clutch in. Thought he killed his motor a second ago, trying to maybe save some fuel. I don't think it's that close, but why not have a little bit of insurance in case we have some green-white checkers?
Well, these guys pitted 20 laps ago, so if we do end up in overtime, and if we do end up using all 3 of our extended restart usages, we are going to end up in a place where these guys will have to save that fuel because they may run out on those final laps, and you don't have as much juice to make it all the way to the checkered flag. And I was about to mention, it gets a little disorienting when you're racing here at Pocono because all 3 of the corners are very different. So if you have a good handling car in turn 1, it doesn't guarantee that you'll be good for turns 2 and 3, and vice versa. Each corner could be a problem. Each corner could be a good one for you. And then it comes down to the debate of how many actual corners are there at Pocono Raceway. And I don't know if I want to bring it up inside 10 laps to go because we're focused more on the racing, but is it 3 turns? Keelan, do you believe it's 3 turns? I really hope you say yes.
Well, you know what they said earlier. I was talking in the chat how whoever wins the race decides how many corners there are. So I guess that'll be one of the questions you have to ask them when they come up here. Be like, hey, how many corners do you think it is? Somebody was saying something about 5, and I was like, that is just dastardly. But
I've heard 5. I've heard 7. I've heard a lot. And
I think I was saying 6.
Yeah, I've heard 6. Yeah, as well. Because they say each part of it's numbers. 2 turns. I don't know. I don't understand. I think Kyle Benson. Oh, Keelan, go ahead.
That tunnel turn is not 2 turns. You cannot count that. It's literally modeled after Indianapolis, and each of those corners count as 1. So that it's either 3 or 5. But I'm gonna go with 3. That's my opinion. I think 1 and 3, they're just really long corners. I guess technically you could say 1 and 2, but no, it's 3 corners, Kenneth. I agree with you.
Well, that is the big argument, is whether turn 1, which is modeled after the Trenton track in New Jersey, whether that's technically 2 corners, and then the tunnel turn is 1, and then the Milwaukee Mile-inspired corner, turn 3, it's supposed to be based off of Milwaukee's 3 and 4. So technically, in their mind, it would be 2 corners. I guess we will have to ask the victor in Paul's Setup Shop Victory Lane when we get down to it. But I want to thank whoever is the head of the 4Wide Racing social media account, and I think it's Kyle Benson. For the most part, he tweets on that account to get the message out there about this series. And when he posted the preview for tonight's race at Pocono, it's a picture of me holding a whiteboard using the track map and saying that it's 1, 2, and 3 corners. So I'm glad that they agree with me on that sense.
That's a good picture of you too, Kenneth. I don't know when that was taken. Was that taken today?
No, that was during the IRL1 series, I think 2023. When they were at Pocono, and I decided to use that as a little promo. I appreciate it. I hope that it's a good message to everyone to remind that, yes, this track does have 3 turns, but we'll get back into the action. Whoever wins gets to decide that, but whoever gets to win will offer themselves either a playoff appearance or further added momentum. Kyle Benson is in control with a chance at his first win of the season. Lawson Peele searching to tie Stephen Maggio's total with 4 on the calendar year, while Jaden Porter looks for win number 2. Austin Reedy, who came into this race 1 point below the playoff cut line, Can he cook up some magic to get his first win in a long while? It will be 8 laps to go when we cross the start-finish line next. Kyle Benson leads the field through the Geico restart zone. Will this be the last bit of green flag action we see? Barney the Flagman has it in tow. Kyle Benson in front. Battle for second underway.
A really good jump for Benson there compared to the last restart, and it's going to have him more comfortable here through the first corner. Going to try to get off it to the best of his ability, try not to let anybody have the opportunity to pounce, but Porter washes up big time through the corner and pushes Peele up the racetrack, opening the door for Austin Reedy on his teammate Steven Maggio. It's going to be a battle for fourth as they go down into the tunnel turn. Top 3 get single filed out.
And this is the highest we've seen Austin Reedy all night long, inside the top 5 with a look underneath Maggio's Toyota Camry. The battle persists in the run to turn 3 as the top 3 cars have pulled away soundly, at least a 10th or 2. And Lawson Peele with a bit of momentum, getting the left side tires down low further than Benson. He is creeping up right on the rear bumper, and they are traveling to the checkered pattern board on the inside of the racetrack. Peele is there, looking for P1 in the first corner.
Benson, he mentioned you have to be aggressive here. That was the most aggressive block I think we've seen today. Threw it all the way down to the inside wall. Made Peele go up to the top side of the racetrack, but that could be the mistake that cost him this race. Luckily, he has Jaden Porter going with him. They're going to be 3 wide into the tunnel turn. I don't think this is going to work, Kenneth.
How many times have we seen this? Jaden Porter sticking it in there with a chance at the lead. He duds through the bumps, and he's got the spot. Jaden Porter, the new race leader from Pocono Raceway, as they tangle for second. Peele is spinning, and he brings Benson with him, and Steven Maggio. They collide to the outside wall, and 3 heavy-hitting contenders taken out in the span of 3 seconds inside 7 to go.
We've seen that story so many times today, Kenneth. Side drafting gone wrong. And that could be exactly what happened right there. Peele Benson making a move, trying to side draft with Peele, and it's going to get all 3 cars tore up. 3 heavy hitters, 3 guys who have been up front leading laps today. Oh, you just hate to see that.
Well, let's see how it all began. A derivative of it, 3 wide as Jaden Porter sent it down low. A wonderful move to steal the lead. But as Benson and Peele recovered off turn 2, I think Benson was just trying to stay put with Peele and get him aerodynamically back there. And all of a sudden, they make the slight contact. Peele is loose. And by the time he's trying to save the race car, he's wiggling across the speedway. He gets down into Benson, who spins up into Steven Maggio. And look at the near miss by Austin Reedy. Peele is able to keep second place, but at the cost of a damaged race car. We'll take another look at it, this time from Peele's perspective.
And Peele, he made it through this tunnel turn a lot better than I thought he would. 3 wide top. I mean, nobody was going to let up going here, racing for the lead. What a move by Jaden Porter. I can't get over that, but he's going to go for the side draft here, almost get turned, and that car is just breaking loose the whole short shoot right there. And Kyle Benson was there to catch his fall, unfortunately, but it is trouble for all 3 race cars. Look from Austin Reedy, the 34.
Desperate situation in points. And this one nearly takes him out. Oh, man.
Really close right there. This is going to open up a new door for Austin Reedy, maybe a chance he didn't think he'd have. I mean, these top 3 cars, all of them have had their different ways of climbing through the field today. I don't think anybody's been spared of a just perfect race. Jaden Porter, alternate strategy, and then the pit road speeding penalty. Now he's going to have an opportunity up here in the race lead. Austin Reedy, we saw him get up into 3rd about halfway through the show, and he ended up getting spun down to the inside wall. Got a little bit of damage, got that car patched up. Now he's in 2nd. Francisco Bacallao took that alternate strategy, and it kind of mired him back in the pack. He has slowly and methodically got his way up into 3rd. So 3 guys who have had some trouble today up here in the top 3.
And for Reedy, he's been consistent as of late, although he did miss Nashville Superspeedway last week on Wednesday. His last 2 appearances, though, at Iowa and Kansas, both of them top 5s after starting specifically 13th. So it's lucky number 13 for Reedy, who rolled off 7th on the grid this evening. Went for a spin earlier on in tonight's action, and through everything that's happened and all the mayhem that occurred, Reedy is in a spot to take away the win or another good finish that keeps him alive in that playoff picture. And when it's only 1 point of a gap, Keelan, you think about, at this point, where is Brandon Banks? He's sitting in P6. That is more than 1 point separating them already. And then you look at the other guys that are near that cut line in Trevor Haley, who's had a little bit of a worse race, but he's in 4th place, so he's still relatively in contention in the top 5. It's going to get really close, but even if Reedy doesn't get the checkered flag tonight, this is a positive sign for the Delaware native, who was near catastrophe and getting fully out of range. And as he makes this start tonight, he is fully eligible to make the playoffs on 14 starts. That is what you need to be eligible to make the postseason, and he will occupy the outside of row 1. It would be unimaginable for Reedy if he can get this win, punch his ticket to the playoffs, given everything that he's had to deal with over the last season and more.
Certainly would, but he has kind of found consistency as of late. It started off with some early season woes at Daytona. He was my pick to win, and he had some trouble. It's been a quiet season for him. The trouble early in the year, and then a lot of quiet, like 5th to 10th place finishes and opportunities to put himself on a podium. Charlotte, he was there in the late stages of the race, and now here at Pocono, going to be on the outside, coming to a 3-lap to go restart. And I don't know, Kenneth, you think we've seen the last of these yellows?
I'm not sure. I would bank that we see another one at least before this is over. Do you think? Do you think we'll see another one?
It's really hard to predict because we've had wrecks right off the restart, and we've had wrecks after 30 laps after the restart. So it's hard to predict, but I don't know. We have new faces and new places up in the front of this field. I don't think we're done being aggressive up front.
Well, our last race came down to a long green flag run. This one may come down to some 4-wide overtime, but we're not there yet. 3 laps to go organically at this restart. Jaden Porter in command in search of his 2nd victory this year. Austin Reedy searching for his 1st in a pretty long time, while Francisco Bacallao searches for career win number 3. Trevor Haley in search for his 1st. And his teammate Nicholas Bauman behind Brandon Banks for Drinkin' Bros Racing and the PulseCars.com Chevrolet outside of the 3rd row. What happens here inside these final 3 laps? Jaden Porter will get us back going. He's got the silver lining of a teammate behind to support. Green flag waves for one more time. Bacallao swifts up high. Bauman looking to make the entry down low for P3 into turn 1.
The AJ Green, what a run to the inside he's had. He's been in trouble today, and he has found his way with an opportunity to get a top 5 finish out of this thing. They are 3 wide back there as Bacallao tank slaps the wall a little bit. That's going to put some distance between Porter and Bacallao. Reedy's going to get 3rd, no problem. Trevor Haley's going to slide into 4th. As the battle is on the back half of the top 5, coming back to 2 laps to go.
And everyone's hitting the wall once again through the tunnel turn. The pair of Dark Horse Motorsports Ford Mustangs find themselves in trouble, and there's the yellow flag. Rodney Roberts in peril to the inside, and we are headed to 4-wide overtime from Pocono.
Just had the feeling that we weren't done with it yet as Rodney Roberts in trouble back there. Gonna get some free extra racing here on the KBueno Racing Network. That's always exciting. As we get a look at the 20 car back here, he was right behind that 3-wide battle of Trevor Haley and Bauman and all of them. See Roberts goes to the inside of the tunnel turn. Ooh, Bauman bounces off the fence and back down into Roberts. And Roberts, similarly to Lawson Peele right there, couldn't quite save the race car, spun it around. Did a good job reducing damage right there. Just a little baby kiss to the inside wall. Maybe a couple seconds of optional. All the track position gone though.
And the Calera, Alabama native of Roberts, who has nearly yet to find a good break here in his 4-wide career, will fall back with the single car spin. And like we've seen throughout most of this race, plenty of the yellows, even though they're under the racing line, race control does throw the caution signal to the field. We've seen many races where drivers spin underneath the racing line, and iRacing race control says let them go. We'll keep staying green. But here at Pocono, there's nowhere to run and nowhere to hide to trigger a yellow flag. So even if you spin under those yellow lines down low and even the bit of dashed lines here in between turns 2 and 3, iRacing's going to throw the yellow. And so even with Roberts' spin and his ability to wonderfully save the car from further damage to his Toyota, we are going to be under the iRacing official pace car one more time. And for the first time, we'll end up in overtime. I said time maybe like 4 or 5 times in the last maybe 6 or 7 seconds, but nonetheless, we will extend this race past lap number 90 in our scheduled distance. As plenty at the back will come for pit road. Kyle Benson among one of those to stay out at the rear. Heavy damage, and yeah, we talked to him, Keelan, earlier on. It looked like he was in high spirits. Just looks like another race gone sour for Benson.
Yeah, and you got to feel for him. It has been a while since he's reached victory lane. We date back to the Daytona season opener, and it was 2 Murray Reedy Motorsports coming off the Motorsports cars coming off the final corner with an opportunity to win. And they took each other out and gave the win to Steven Stempien, and they have yet to find victory lane as a team yet this season. Austin Reedy's going to have an opportunity restarting 3rd here for them. But it's really unfortunate for Kyle Benson. Probably felt like this was one of his better opportunities this season. He was right there, and there are several races this year that you can count for Kyle Benson that, if just Brandon Hawkin doesn't show up or Scott Healy doesn't show up, I mean, he's the car to beat. So it's just always being that 2nd or 3rd best car, not necessarily the best. He may have had the best today, but not going to find out after that incident. As we see 30 car Francisco Bacallao and Jaden Porter, they're going to be on a front row, reverse of what we had at the start of the race when Francisco Bacallao started on the pole. And the 4 wide race trends, only 2 drivers here at Pocono have won from the pole, and it was the last 2 races we had with Lawson Peele and Brandon Hawkin back in season 6 here at Pocono. Francisco going to try to make that 3 in a row. Follow that race trend.
He's going to try to be that 3rd career driver to do it from the pole. And he's been all over tonight. He's got to beat his teammate, though, Jaden Porter to the front. And we've seen them race each other hard, very clean throughout their careers in BBR and just racing in different leagues apart from 4 wide. And this time they will occupy the front row here on this first attempt at 3 of overtime from Long Pond, Pennsylvania. So here is how overtime will function. We'll have this restart with 2 laps to go. If the leader catches the white flag before a caution is thrown on the speedway, we will race it back to the checkered flag no matter what, and we will decide a winner. However, if a caution waves before the leader catches the white flag on the speedway, then we will try and restack them and try it again with a similar double wide restart like we have in front of you now. If we finish all 3 attempts and we still cannot get a race winner under green, then we will decide this race under yellow, and at the throwing of the final caution flag on the tertiary attempt before the white flag, whoever is the leader at the timing of the caution will be decided the winner. So that's how overtime will function. We've been in this situation several times before. Haven't been at it, though, in a couple of weeks' time. We've seen plenty of these races come down to single-digit laps to go, but overtime has been a little rare over the last month or so. However, this is another chance to either bring dreams a reality or potentially crush the hopes of some of them looking for a crucial W. Jaden Porter wants win number 2. Bacallao wants win number 1 this season. AJ Green searching for his first win in a long time, and so is Austin Reedy, whose last win was back in season number 5. With Nicholas Baumann, the rookie winner of the All-Star race, trying to get his first proper official win. Trevor Haley and Curtis Kelly back in row number 3. Remember how important BBR was at working together on the last restart while Bacallao had the rear bumper look of Porter's Chevrolet. Now they both have to play defense against each other, as Reedy and AJ Green will follow suit right behind, ready for the hunt. Final 5 miles from Pocono. First attempt at overtime.
Decent jump for that 30 car. We'll see if he can stick to his quarter panel as they race down into turn number 1. Not quite going to be able to stick with him as they fan out. Pandicio way down to the bottom side of the racetrack. 3 wide, the 63 sideways. Going to slide back in front of Michael Newbraw. Can he save it? Down on the inside, going to save it. There's Brandon Gillis, though, big time sideways, sliding off the bumps and head on into the fence. And that's going to bring out the caution, and we're going to have a second attempt at overtime here.
And it didn't take us long to find our second attempt as they got squirrely entering turn one. It started with a big stack up with Curtis Kelly, who was at the front of all that, led everybody behind him, and then Ryan Pandicio loose on the inside of the racetrack, and it leads to this moment here. The black and brown Ford Mustang of Brandon Gillis stacks up. Boy, he gets a shunt from Timothy Cook entering for turn one. And then as he comes out of the first corner, he gets to Kyle Benson's outside, and he's loose already. He's trying to save it. It's independent of Pandicio, and just goes head on, nearly full speed into the outside wall. No one else gets a part of it, but Brandon Gillis, 25th, will be taken out of this race, and Porter will pick up the pace car once more. We'll try our second attempt at overtime this time by. So another heartbreaking moment there for Porter. Could not complete the run to the white flag. And I imagine, Keelan, we were going to find ourselves in trouble. Everyone desperate for that track position inside the final 2 laps of the race. And when you have overtime on your hands, it means you got to go, 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 or the time runs out for Gillis, Pandicio, even a bit of Curtis Kelly was in the middle of 3 and 4 wide. You're just trying to find your way. You're pushing the race car to its limits, and sometimes you break the race car in a bit, and you just go sideways, or you get into another car on the speedway and you make a problem happen. And for Brandon Gillis, it was a solo car spin, but nonetheless, it brings out the caution.
And that's going to bring us to our second attempt. And I can't get over all the storylines we have in the top 5 right now. And these up and down races, I mean, several of these guys are, at least 2 of the guys in the top 5 have been involved in cautions today. AJ Green, he was one of them. At halfway through the show, so was Austin Reedy, and they're up here on the second row trying to knock down the BBR teammates. And for AJ Green, it has been a long time since he's visited Victory Lane, Kenneth. You'd have to go all the way back to Darlington of Season 5. Entering the season, it was a 38-race winless drought. Add 16 to that. What is that, 54 races since the 48 cars visited Victory Lane. And it has been a downward trend for him in the points as of late. So a win to lock himself in and not have to worry about that cut line would be absolutely huge.
AJ Green's last win in this series came the way of season number 5. And that was a Darlington Raceway, that very memorable overtime restart where Green was on the back bumper of Kyle Benson, gave him the chrome horn in turn 3, and as soon as they were wrecking on the back straightaway and the yellow came out, AJ Green was a foot or 2 ahead of Benson's car, and all of a sudden that was the decision maker and who was the winner there. And Green's win before that came the way of New Hampshire Motor Speedway, but since, season 6 was a big negative for Stonks Motorsports as a whole. Lance, Colin, and AJ struggled to find momentum throughout the campaign. And while this season it's looked a little better, Lance Hill picked up a win at Talladega. Colin Forrester and AJ Green still without a race win in 2025. Still the chance to make that happen as we get down to the end of this race. So another look at the Big Bracket Challenge that is fully underway in its first round tonight. We had our wild card round last week at the virtual Nashville Super Speedway, and it took a little while. Tyler Murray was trying to get this graphic together, but here we are. So Lance Hill, by starting this race, he will beat Brandon Hawken, which is a big surprise. That's a spoiler of the 1 seed, so a wild card round driver continues on. Brandon Banks and Christopher Bishop in their fight. Banks is 7th on the racetrack, while Christopher Bishop sits back in 27th, 20 laps down. And then you look down through the order, you can just see the drivers ahead of the others. Who will be the upper-handed driver going into the next road course race at COTA? I think it's really fun we're seeing this head-to-head battle go down, Keelan, because it's cool to watch drivers focus on one rather than all. And we've seen many surprises already tonight based on the attrition.
I've been in a similar situation, raced in a league where the playoff bracket was the actual playoffs. It wasn't a bracket challenge to make your way in, but I think it's very fitting as we come into the month of March in a couple weeks, and we get ready to sit down on a in class on Thursday and not even pay attention to the lecture, watch basketball on our laptops, coming in on one of the greatest sporting events in the world, in my opinion, of March Madness coming up. Very fitting that we get this thing fired up, and it's an opportunity to make the playoffs. Tyler Murray said it counts as a race win, so it's going to be an opportunity for anybody. And if you're a driver who's already locked in and you find a way to win that bracket challenge, that's just more playoff points to you. So it's bragging rights as well, Kenneth, isn't it? I mean, that's if you win that, you win the inaugural one. That's big bragging rights.
And a driver that says he's going to be there for COTA, it's Colin Forster, who's joining us in the YouTube chat. The Jacksonville, Florida native won that COTA race back in Season 5. And you'll have a chance of getting another race win at that famed road course in Austin, Texas. In absence tonight, but hopefully we'll see him back in 2 weeks' time on March 12th. So we'll double them up and try it again. Our second attempt at overtime. Similar front row and second row. The BBR cars of Porter and Bacalhau will take the field back to turn 1. We saw how good Porter did. A job of getting to the front first and being able to clear everyone else before turn 1. But AJ Green gave a shot at Bacalhau. Austin Reedy, who was on the outside, nearly made a move, but just got shut down right before he could attempt something as Brandon Gillis went spinning off of turn number 1. Let's do it again. Second attempt at OT. We'll click off lap number 96 of what could be 98 or more laps. Green flag waves from Pocono. And there goes Porter with Bacalhau in tow. Bacalhau wants more. He peeks underneath for the race lead.
It'll be side by side for Reedy and Bacalhau. Reedy on the last overtime restart washed up a little bit off of 1, and it cost him some ground. They're going to be bouncing off each other. Into the fence goes the 34 as he's going to get clear of Bacalhau. Now try to set his sights on race leader Jaden Porter as Trevor Haley may try to make a move on that 30 for third.
Bacalhau got a little tight there in 1, pushed Austin Reedy up the hill, and as they take their raid through the tunnel turn, will we see another yellow flag? Look at the runoff turn 2 by Austin Reedy to make a move to the shallow turn 3. He may be within striking distance as Jaden Porter sees the white flag from Pocono.
3 more opportunities, 3 corners for Austin Reedy to try to make a move. He's going to get that draft down the straightaway and have an opportunity to close in. He gets really close down into turn number 1. Jaden Porter, they make a little bit of contact there into 1. Porter going to slide up the racetrack. The door is open. Here comes Reedy and here comes Francisco Bacalhau.
Bacalhau shooting out of a cannon. Now he'll peek under. The aggressive move in turn 2. Will it pay off? He looks underneath. Porter having to stay put where he's at in that middle lane where he's been a little strong as of late. They remain door to door off turn 2. Austin Reedy is not within striking distance. Does Bacalhau have one more say at it left? Reedy looks to the inside for a second. He doors Bacalhau hard into the outside wall, and it is a clear runway for Jaden Porter, who will take his second win of the season from Long Pond, Pennsylvania.
Oh goodness, Kenneth, what a finish. We might have seen tempers flare a little bit coming to the checkered flag there, and that just cleared the door wide open. No chance for anybody else to make a run. And Jaden Porter, coming back from a speeding penalty earlier in this show, gonna make a move to put it in victory lane for the second time this season. And Jaden Porter gonna extend that regular season points lead, as it has been a great consistent season for that 28 car.
And after Darlington, where he got into a full-on dogfight with Brandon Hawken, this time around sustains the pressure from not only Austin Reedy, but his teammates in Bacalhau, who just got stuffed in turn 3. And I don't know how that all happened, but it was just so unfortunate at the end. And all of a sudden, Jaden Porter sees everything happen in the rearview mirror, and he's able to celebrate win number 2 of the season. And Jaden Porter survives to win at Pocono. The Kentucky native celebrates in Long Pond and enters Paul's Setup Shop victory lane for the second time.
Great looking race car, by the way, Kenneth. Glad to see it in victory lane. Those are some beautiful colors on that race car. But how about that race for Jaden Porter? I can't I can't believe it. All the people we saw came from the back to the front. I mean, suffered that speeding penalty earlier. He took a 2-tire gamble and had to come back because he went on pit road, ended up getting the other 2 tires on a race car and driving it back out front as you get a look at the last couple corners of this race. It was a tight race between these guys coming to the white flag. I don't know if Reedy and Bacallao maybe made a bit of contact back into one. We see Reedy get a little bit of a push from the 30, and that kind of pushed the 34 into the 28. Maybe that is what the upset nature of the 34 was about right there. As we see Bacallao get clear, he's going to make a move down into the tunnel turn. Opportunity to get the win, but this is just picture perfect defense by that 28 of Jaden Porter as they go down into the tunnel turn side by side, racing hard. A good corner exit for Porter, and that's going to get him clear. And Francisco going to try to back up this third corner and maybe get a run coming back to the front straightaway. But as we see, just stuffed right there, and it's clear to the checkered flag for Jaden Porter for his second win of the season.
I don't know what Austin Reedy was doing there, but he dove it hard into turn 3 just in a full send effort, and he creates a parking lot off the final corner as he tangled with Bacallao into the end of it, just trying to look for second. But Jaden Porter, even in that attempted pass by Bacallao to the inside of turn 2, we've seen plenty of guy get into trouble in that exact portion of the racetrack, but Jaden Porter held his ground. You got to give him so much credit for playing the defense right here. And here is the look at it once more. Bacallao has a big run. He looks to the inside. And by here, you'd think Porter would back out, but he does not. Stays in the secondary lane, and both of them do a great job at surviving this corner. Bacallao, who had been stellar through this tunnel turn all night long, stayed put, but just didn't have the momentum off the banking. And then in this final stretch, that's where Austin Reedy just sends it. Doesn't even tap of the brakes, barely makes the corner apex and just slams hard into Bacallao, was nowhere to go, and then catches Bauman, then catches Jurgensmeyer, then Moore, Peele, and almost everyone else at the back.
Yeah, really unfortunate for all these guys back here. Jonathan Jurgensmeyer in his 70s said he got a black flag out of that. Just unfortunate. Really no room for any of that, and a lot of guys just get their cars tore up. Really no reason. It's really unfortunate, but Jaden Porter is the one who puts it in victory lane, so good for that 28 car BBR. They were on top of it tonight.
Well, that leaves us into the unofficial results. Many of them jambled at the end of this 97-lapper and 2 attempts at 4-wide overtime. Jaden Porter, the winner, his second W of the season. AJ Green gets his best finish of the campaign by far, half a second back in second. Eric Schaefer closes it out with a podium finish. Haven't seen much of Schaefer all night long, but he survives the chaos. Trevor Haley, great run for him. And I'd say, Keelan, great runs by all of these guys who are at the edge of being eliminated from the playoff picture virtually in these final several races of the regular campaign. Green, Schaefer, and Haley in a pretty tough spot, but they bounce back in a great way. Mikey Neal spins twice in this race, but comes around for 5th. Brandon Banks in 6th. Steven Maggio back in 7th. Craig Parks to 8th place. Jesse Prees wraps up 9th. And Michael Newbraw, 18th and 11 points out of the final playoff spot. Gets a big momentum booster with a top 10 finish from Pocono.
Gabriel Zahari, our Iowa winner, ends up in 11th after getting involved in that incident. Lance Hill back there in 12th. Timothy Cook in 13th. Kyle Benson, who we saw up front leading laps all the way up until 10 to go, finishes in 14th. Nicholas Bauman, who came off the final corner and got involved in that incident with Bacallao and Reedy, finishes in 15th. Ryan Pandiccio in the 16th position. Curtis Kelly, who led a lot of laps early and got off sequence with the strategy, finishes in 17th with his teammate Daniel Moore in 18th. Rodney Roberts and Francisco Bacallao round out the top 20.
And then back in 21st, there's Lawson Peele, who went through ups and many downs in this race, but today will be a negative one for the Mississippi driver. Craig Lounslauger ends up 22nd, Jonathan Jurgensmeyer 23rd. There's Austin Reedy, the first car a lap down, in 24th after he sailed it into turn 3 looking for the second spot. Brandon Gillis is 25th. Juan Escamilla back in 26th. The struggles continue for the Indianapolis native. Christopher Bishop in 27th. Dusty Applin in 28th. Tyler Murray in 29th. Cody Kinsey to round out the top 30. Mind you, A lot of these guys got into incidents late in the going. That includes Justin Rout in his first race of the season, Ethan Fonseca Moreno 32nd, and Kevin D'Elia barely made the green flag tonight, 90 laps down in position number 33. So let's visit Paul's setup shop, Victory Lane, where we are joined for the second time this season by Louisville, Kentucky's Jaden Porter. Jaden, that was a wild one to the finish, but let's talk about the final stint in particular. You survived from a pit road speeding penalty where you thought you might have had the race lead off pit road. You have to give up all that track position. You slowly work your way through the field. And then over time, you've got a chance to win. And you survive a late race melee by the competition behind you. How does it feel to win? And what was all of that chaos like from your perspective?
Honestly, this was a race of emotion. I know I started pretty good and I ran top 5 basically the whole first run. Then we made a strategy call after the first pit stop to come back in because it was going to be a one-stopper. But that just was not the right call at all. You could save a good amount of fuel while in the draft and everything, and it was just so hard to pass. So getting through the pack was rough, to say the least. You know, everyone's also good in this league, so when everyone's running the same speed, it's going to be really hard to pass. Then we got that caution. I was able to take 2, restarted P10, kind of made my way through, made some aggressive moves that I normally don't make, but you gotta make them. And yeah, it was a crazy battle there with me, Benson, and Peele for a while when I took it 3 into the tunnel. I was either gonna go into that corner and take the lead, or we were all wrecking the way I was going in that corner. So luckily, I took the lead, and we were able to hang on there at the end with a crazy finish, I guess, behind me.
And going into this race, we had heard the storyline that it was going to be really tough to pass in the draft and just overall with this next-gen car and how powerful it is in the slipstream. And last week was the same at Nashville Superspeedway. What seemed to be the most difficult part of racing this track and racing the competition? Because you can't really let your foot off the gas pedal. So many cars around you could take the opportunity at an inside or outside look. And it didn't matter what corner it was in these final overtime attempts, whether it was the tunnel turn, turns 1 or turn 3, everyone was going to give you their best punch. What was the hardest part about playing that defense and staying up front in those final laps?
Just get a good jump. I know me and Francisco worked pretty good on the restarts, and I made a mistake in the tunnel on the last restart. And hit the wall, which gave Reedy a chance to get to me. And I don't know what happened between him and Francisco in the 1, but they, I guess, hit or whatever, and it got into me. And then, you know, it was on from there. And then whatever happened in turn 3, you don't like to see that, but whatever happened there, I guess. But I was able to hang on, get the win. This track, it feels good to win here because this track has really hated me in 4 wide. I think last season I didn't even finish 1 lap in both races here on the lead lap, so feels really good to knock this one off the list now.
You finally get a win here at the Tricky Triangle, and you get your second of the season. So after we talked about that storyline of you taking a little while to get to Victory Lane, Darlington was the first moment. I think you're now starting to strike the iron when it's hot, getting that momentum for the late regular season push. Well, Jaden, what do you see now from the rest of this regular season? 4 races left after tonight. You've clearly got a playoff spot locked in. What's your mindset looking like in these final 4?
Just try to win some more races. I think the next race, just try to get a top 10 because I'm really bad at road courses, especially Coda. But, you know, we got Dover coming up. That's a really good racetrack for me. Basically just hanging on to this points lead and having a good cushion when we go to Daytona where I can already have it kind of locked up when we go there and get those extra playoff points. But we're just going to try to go for wins until the playoffs and then get ready for the playoff run.
In search for the second career 4-wide championship, and I think it's looking good right now, favoritism-wise. Jaden, congratulations on the win from Pocono. Before we let you go, anybody in particular you want to give a shout-out to or thank?
Yep. I'd like to thank all my teammates at KBueno Racing, Francisco, Steven, Mikey, Gabriel, and Ethan. They all helped out tonight. Splash and Go Graphics for this beautiful race car. I know I ran the wrong banner. Trading Paints glitched out. But thanks to them. Thanks to my brother and his friends for watching. And I told Keelan I'd say this last week. If I won, the most American thing is a triangle. So I told Keelan I'd say that. So there you go, Keelan.
Wait.
I appreciate that.
But like we said earlier, I think Keelan and I were talking about it. The winner does get to decide how many turns are at Pocono. So how many turns does Pocono have?
You know, I say this as a joke. 5 turns.
Oh, well.
I think there's 5 turns here. That's obviously a joke, but we're gonna roll with it.
Okay, well, 5 turns it is. We're probably going to have to debate a little bit after this coverage is over. But Jaden, congratulations in all seriousness on this second win of the season. Great job all night long, and looking forward to see you in the field take on Coda in 2 weeks' time. Enjoy the off week and enjoy the win.
Thank you.
Jaden Porter, the checkered flag holder in Paul's Setup Shop Victory Lane from Long Pond, Pennsylvania. We're going to try to join AJ Green from second. We do not have him now, but Keelan Belcher, we do have the third place finisher. That's the 3 car of Eric Schaefer.
Hey, Eric, you got us?
What's up, fellas?
How you doing? A P3 finish for you in a night where you came in kind of in that playoff bubble range, needed an opportunity to put together a good run, and it seemed like the field just kind of fell apart for you on that last lap to put it there in third. Take us through your race.
Yeah, I just side drafted a little aggressively in the beginning and got into that guy, Wright. I believe his name is Rock Wright. And I immediately took responsibility before anything happened because I know that I'm on probation or whatnot. But I told Tyler just go ahead and give me an EOL so nothing came about it. But no, apologize to him for that. But no, all in all, good night, man. Tried to keep my nose clean. Stayed around my teammates a lot there for the bracket challenge thing. Trying to help Jesse out as much as I could to stay in front of Maggio or get around Maggio or whatnot. But no, all in all, good night, man. Just I love this track. I just hate this car, dude. I really wish we would run 100% fuel because these cars are made for 100% fuel, not 75. But I think if we had 100% fuel, we would have a lot more cleaner racing, in my opinion. But it is what it is. We got a lot of short run heroes out there.
Well, a solid P3 finish, and coming into this race, you were just above the cut line. Looked like, I believe it was 43 points to the good. So it's a good opportunity to build on that gap. We got 4 races left in the regular season before the playoff starts. What's your strategy for these last 4 races?
Honestly, man, try to keep my nose as clean as I possibly can. Just try not to step on a banana peel too much, you know. I'm horrible at road courses, so I'll do my best to stay on the track there and do what I need to do. But no, just carry this momentum forward, man, and just stay as clean as I possibly can, and work with my teammates as much as we can to keep each other running as well as we are.
Start running well and getting a solid podium finish and a great looking race car, might I add. So we thank you for joining us. You got anybody you want to thank for today's good run?
Yeah, huge shout out to you and Kenneth for what y'all do on the KBueno Network, man. Like I always say, and it never gets old of me saying it. I love what you guys do. Y'all always put on an amazing broadcast. It's the best quality out there, no matter what, hands down. Huge shout out to all of the Drinking Bros guys. Shout out to Tyler and all the admins, TJ's team for sponsoring the league, and definitely Paul's Setup Shop.
We appreciate you joining us tonight. Congratulations on a great P3 finish.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
That's Eric Schaefer coming home in third. Finally, we have a word here with AJ Green coming home in second. AJ, welcome to the booth. I think this is a situation of the clouds breaking out and the sunshine peeking through because it's been a rather rough season for you in this 48 team, but it all comes back tonight. You've been back and forth throughout the field, but plenty of strong moments in this race. How would you best describe it?
I'd describe it as crazy, especially the last lap. The season has not gone the way I thought it would when we were coming back to the next gen car for this season. And especially the last few months, it's been just wreck after wreck and disconnect after disconnect, and it's not fun. So getting P2 here is quite nice.
And in this race, like I mentioned to Jaden, it all came down to the difficulty of gaining track position and the difficulty of these corners. Plenty of guys that got caught out with loose moments or just hitting the outside wall. How was that for you, just manhandling this race car and trying to learn the dynamics of it in the midst of the pack throughout the race?
It was actually, I coming into the race, I thought I wasn't gonna be as fast as I was, and running in the pack, I was passing cars pretty good. I was getting through the turns, and the car just wasn't tight, which I thought it would be. So it felt really great, and I just didn't have really a trouble passing. And then for track position, just stay out when everybody else pitted, and hopefully the tires would equal out, and it did.
Well, AJ, this is, I believe, your best finish of the season, which is a good turning point now. And like I said in the results sheet, you, Schaefer, Trevor Haley, all those guys that are at the back end of the playoff picture, you guys make big statements tonight with these good finishes here at Pocono this evening. What is it going to take to continue that momentum, build it onwards to COTA and some of these final races of the regular campaign?
Well, this is definitely a lot of momentum, although with COTA being next week, I don't know how well I'll do. So hopefully I can get, probably aiming for like a top 15 there, but I'm really hyped for the rest of the season. I'm pretty good at all the tracks that are coming up before the playoffs.
Well, hopefully it's a good sign for your team, Stonks Motorsports. We got word that Colin Forrester is going to try to show up at COTA in 2 weeks' time. So hopefully things go well for the team. But AJ, we appreciate the time. Congratulations on the second place finish. Before we let you go, anybody you want to give a shout out to or thank?
Yeah, shout out Stonks team. We had a crazy race. Shout out to y'all in the booth and Tyler for putting on the league.
Well, it's all low from our side, AJ. Always great to talk to you, and congratulations on the P2 from Long Pond, Pennsylvania. We'll see you in the field at COTA in 2 weeks' time.
Thank you.
So AJ Green concludes our podium finishers here from Pocono. There's a look at the huge crash at the end of it. In the midst of that huge wreck was Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, who had a clearable black flag coming to the start-finish line, and race admins and league owner Tyler Murray have decided that they will honor that cleared black flag. So Jurgensmeyer will be credited with a 15th place finish. Everyone 15th on back will just slide one spot down, so Jurgensmeyer will get a bit more points than he has shown here at the end of this race. But what a wild one, Keelan. I probably expected to see some of this chaos throughout the race, but maybe not near the end with everything that we saw. I think the common thread, though, was proper standing up by Jaden Porter to keep his command of the field in those final overtime restarts. And now he's got 2 wins as we move on to COTA.
Yeah, I just don't know, Kenneth. I don't think I can predict a race for anything anymore. I said in the pre-race show, this may be the only one where there's not too much chaos, and it's a good opportunity to make up points. And it felt like we had some great green flag racing mixed in there, but there were several incidents that took out a lot of good race cars. But Jaden Porter, he was able to capitalize on it and take that momentum into COTA next week. Or in 2 weeks' time, I'm sorry. There's an off week next week for the new iRacing build, but we'll be back on March 12th for COTA, and then it's full steam ahead. 4 weeks to make the playoffs, and a lot of tracks where there's different opportunities for different disciplines of drivers and how good they are at the racing, and then it all comes to an end at Daytona. And you know how tough it is to predict one of those races, Kenneth, so I'm not even going to try.
It's very tough. That is fair in its own sense. But as we move down, if you are still itching to get more of your 4-wide fix, the good news is our next break after this COTA 1 week off journey to Austin, Texas, it'll be right before the playoffs begin at Auto Club Speedway. From there on, we are ticking off week by week which drivers will advance through each of the rounds before our championship finale at the virtual Homestead Miami Speedway in late May. So that would do it for our coverage of the 4-Wide Racing TJ's Team Series from Pocono. On behalf of everyone at 4-Wide, for Tyler Murray and the rest of the league admins that make this league go round, and for everyone at the KBueno Racing Network, for Charlie Beyer and our crew on the broadcast tonight, Francisco Bacalao and Keelan Belsha, I'm Kenneth Bueno saying so long from Pocono, and congratulations to Jaden Porter on his second win of Season 7.